Batman. Batman, yeah. Batman, whoa. Yeah, yeah. It's the Batman song. Batman. That's the stream. Okay, I'm here. What's up? Hi. Also, it's laundry day, so I was out of fresh, clean t-shirts. I think this one still has a tiny stain on it from glue that I used during miniature assembly for 40K. How y'all doing? Dirty t-shirt. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. How y'all doing? Yeah, sure, glue. Well, you know, cum washes off. That's a critical difference and a meaningful one. You know, I am so sleepy. I am so goddamn sleepy you wouldn't believe. I don't know what's wrong, guys. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I keep trying, you know, go to bed at like 1 a.m., wake up at 9. Simple, straightforward, but I am so fucking groggy. I can't do it. It's devastating. You know, I don't, you know, with regards to chemical assistance, yeah, I usually take like one hit off of a bong before going to sleep because it makes me groggy, you know. But I don't think that would make me have bad sleep. At least it hasn't historically. I'm too woke. Yeah, too woke to have a good sleep. You know how it is. Well, wokeism truly is a plague. Weed and Adderall both interfere with REM sleep. Maybe. Sleep between 12 a.m. and 2 a.m. is critically important. I could link studies if you would like. Studies written by nerds. No, I don't think so. Nice try, fuckwit, but you're not getting me today. How are you guys doing? Doing well? Having a good time? So what is it? 11 a.m. on a Monday? I imagine quite a few of you aren't having a good time, actually. I imagine for some of you, there's absolutely no impetus whatsoever to have a good time presently. Oh, hold on. Speaking of which... Ah, come on. Where is it? Where's the full thing? Ah, where's the full thing? The full White House press release. The full thing where with the Thanos snap. Um Damn it. Where is it? The last White House statement. Statement from Press Secretary Jen Psaki. I think this is in reference to Joe Manchin. Yeah, this is about Manchin. What about fact sheet, convention efforts, spokesperson? No, that's not it. That's not it. Hmm. This? Maybe. I couldn't find it on the website. Let me see. There we go. Okay. I saw this. So I don't keep up with all of the White House briefings because I'm not a nerd and politics is dumb and gay and L plus ratio. But I did see people bitching about this on Twitter and it was enormously funny. Really, I was doubling over with laughter. Okay. This is this is from one of the White House, you know, press briefings. And listen to this language right here, okay? It's phenomenal, all right? For the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death for yourselves, your families, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm. What a Chad, what a no malarkey moment. I voted in Biden because he said he would get rid of malarkey, and this is it right here, okay? None of this like, no, you know, For the unvaccinated, for you await only death, and death for your people. A plague upon your land, a pox upon your households. May locusts swarm among your crops until there is nothing left of green. We will salt the earth. No, it's good. I like it, you know. I see some people on Twitter, you know, they're real angry about it. Can somebody explain to me why we're angry about it? I mean, I get that the language doesn't really differentiate between people who can't get vaccinated and people who won't get vaccinated, but I think it's pretty clear they're referring to people who won't get vaccinated. I mean, I think that's really obviously, like, I don't think the White House is stunting on, like, 3-month-old babies and people with immunodeficiency disorders. I think it's very clear that's not what the messaging is intended for. Okay. I think it's very obvious they're referring to people who won't get vaccinated. Yeah. And the hospitals you may see overwhelmed. True. Yeah, do keep in mind, by the way, you know, even if the vaccine isn't that great at preventing you from getting Omicron, it does significantly decrease the likelihood that you'll be hospitalized. There are hospitals all over the country that even right now are packed up to full. Every bed is full of people who are sick with COVID because they didn't fucking get vaccinated. So they're just taking up hospital beds, and other people who have other needs at the hospital just can't get medical treatment. They're killing other people too, you know? So yeah, only death awaits you and your people. Fuck yeah, absolutely. You're looking at a winter of severe illness, you know, may the frost consume you and your family, you know. May you die on the streets. The hardest choices require the strongest wills, Jack. God. Will there be any lockdowns again? I don't think there's any political will for a lockdown in the United States. I think it's very unlikely things come to that, but yeah. Is this against the White House TOS? Isn't it crazy that the White House press briefings have no terms of service? Isn't that crazy? Who would enforce it? They're the White House. It's who? There's no terms of service. They can say whatever they want. They could just have a press briefing that just posts Joe Manchin's address, you know? And his, like, door code password, which I'm sure the White House could get, you know? They could just post that, you know, whatever. Who's gonna take their site down? They host their own servers. Yeah, I know his address is known publicly. Most famous people already, their address is known, you know? Yeah. Yeah, dear Joe Manchin, you know, 192.186. Yeah, exactly. There's no TOS house and not swamped with Nazis yet. Well, you know, it is just covertly. Can the White House say cracker? Undeniably. Anyway, I do think it's quite funny. You know, I think it's very, very funny. I mean, if you look at the rest of the press briefing, of course, the language is a lot more measured and it's quite long, and I am illiterate, so, you know, I don't want to. Yeah, just I don't know what any of these are. These hieroglyphics, they mean nothing to me. But that one paragraph, I thought, you know, is quite funny. People are very angry over it. Let me see if I can find people being angry over it, because that's really what struck out to me. We'll talk about Kamala Harris. Don't worry. Let me see. Where are the people who are angry? There was one Twitter post that went viral. Is it? Did you find it? Let me see. This is one of them, but there was another one. Is it this? The pretty critical one? There we go. Here we are. Oh, wait, this isn't even the one that I liked. I liked what... Okay, wait. One of these that posted the screenshot of this, I liked it because I thought it was funny. You know? But then I actually looked in the responses and people were mad about it. So let's see. What are people so mad about, you know? Sean was tweeting about it. All right, let's see. Sean, a.k.a. Cuckboy. Fucking got him. Fucking got him. I don't see anything from Sean's page. But I am also illiterate, so, you know, it's a little difficult for me to parse that information. Let me see. Somebody said their 5-year-old read the briefing, then cried about it. Oh yeah, here we go. This is the one I liked. 40K likes. There we go. Okay, first of all, let's get this bullshit out of the way. My 5-year-old came running to me in tears. He said he read the White House's latest press release and he's worried he'll die. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. Shut my 18-month-old baby read the White House press brief, and then everyone clapped, but the whole family clapped, and then Joe Biden showed up, and then... Is this a joke? I can't tell if this is a joke. I can't tell anymore from Twitter. Is this satire? I don't know. Oh, wait. 27-hour days. Oh my god, I didn't read the end. I'm so embarrassed right now. I didn't even read the end. It's obviously a joke. There's not 27 hours in a day I didn't read the end. I only read this part, and I thought, yep, this is what liberals are like, and immediately my... You know, it's very ableist to debate illiterate people like me. You know, let's move on to people who aren't joking. Let's move. This is real. Okay, the anger in here is real. Okay, let's find it. Still struggling to believe this is real, but it is. And then, of course, we have the banger quote. You know, a pox upon your land, salt upon the earth. You know, Biden, a great wind of death will sweep over your household. Paint the blood of a sheep upon the wooden door. You know, if you have been vaccinated, etc., etc. It said still struggling to believe this is real, and I thought this meant like I can't believe how based Biden is. You know, I can't believe how anti-malarkey he is. You know, he's really standing up to his campaign promises. But let's see, and we have the link. I hope it's clear this is awful for multiple reasons. First, leaving the unvaccinated to die is immoral and wrong. We're not leaving them to die. They're dying. They're leaving them to die. They're leaving themselves to die. They're doing it themselves. Second, I can't count how many vaccinated people I know personally who got it in the last few days. Not to mention high-profile cases. This mentality is abhorrent. What? What does that have to do with the... If you're unvaccinated, you will face severe illness and death. But vaccinated people also got it. Okay? If statements like this don't cause you to blink cause of your loyalty to a political party, you scare me, honestly. I don't get what people are mad about. As people have pointed out, unvaxxed folks include kids and others. What is and others? What does that mean? What? Please see beyond the Dem GOP binary and understand we can and must organize outside of that. And then people are posting the full thing, which I don't think means anything because there's nothing wrong with just the clipped portion right there. Hold on. It was fun reading it, holding a toddler who has a fever less than 10 minutes after getting a call from my daughter's school about positive cases in her class. 10 days of isolation. Merry Christmas to all. What? What does that mean? Fuck your shitty baby. What does this have to do with the fucking thing? Eat shit. Parents on social media are insufferable. You could find a Twitter post about, like, trauma dumping, and somebody would talk about their recent parentage. Perhaps it's a bit fucked because of breakthrough cases. It has nothing to do with breakthrough cases. Nothing about the language of this paragraph has anything. All it says is if you're unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death for you and your families. Which is an objective, I mean, that is true. So this isn't saying the only people who will get COVID are unvaccinated people. It's not saying we'll leave anyone behind. It's only, like, descriptively stating the fact that, yes, that is what will happen. I mean, this isn't about leaving the unvaccinated to die, brutal honesty. Okay, I agree with that. My daughter is an RN in a hospital in highly vaccinated Massachusetts. Their ICU is filled up with COVID patients, only one of which is vaccinated. Her unit, which rarely gets COVID patients, has 15, the majority unvaccinated. It's time to get tough messaging, IMO. Okay, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. Fuck them up. Yeah, look at this. This is for hospitalizations, not cases. But, like, look at this. There you go. Unvaccinated. Look at that. Like, yeah. Only death for you and your people. Yes, a winter of death and decay. Like, yeah. I mean, those numbers aren't... They don't lie. It's, you know, pretty clear, really. It's in the grim darkness, yeah. I'm sick of this personal responsibility bullshit. You have a personal responsibility to get the vaccine, you fucking morons. Yes, you do, okay? You do have that. The state can't literally force you. We're getting there, but the state can't literally force you, okay? Um, wait, wait, like, yes, you do have a responsibility. Jesus. Any more strains of angry here? Thank you for highlighting this. Blaming individuals is the antithesis for public health and should be condemned no matter what your political affiliation is. What? Wait, should it be condemned to say that if you have HIV, you should wear a condom? Like, what? They're directly doing it. Vaccines are free and everywhere. It's what Dr. Lucky Tran? I don't care. Odd name. Saying we should force vaccinate people. Yeah, I don't understand. I would understand the outrage if the vaccines cost money. You know what I mean? If it cost $100 to get vaccinated, I would share in a lot of the concerns here. But as it stands, they're free. They are free. Right now, they are free. You can just you can like 15 minutes. Like you can be in downtown and go like, oh, there's a Walgreens nearby. Check on your, oh, are they like a vaccine? Oh, they are. Go in, get the thing. It'll take less time than a drive-through at a fast food place. It's nothing. It's incredibly, so in that environment, yes, I am willing to levy an expectation of personal responsibility here. Because I'm uncucked. Because I'm based and uncucked pilled. That was the meme one. And then here's the one saying they were evil. Why is it enough for the anti-vax to just stay home, mask, and socially distance? Why does it have to be the vax? That's what I don't get. What? First of all, nobody can stay home. We have to work. We don't have lockdown, so that's not viable. Second, social distancing and masks are just ways of slightly delaying the spread of the disease. They don't ultimately fix the problem. And with how virulent Delta and later Omicron are, they aren't going to hold it for long. At the end of the day, what you need to do is lower hospitalizations and deaths. And the only way to do that is through vaccination. You're not going to fix that with masks and social distancing. Also, it takes nothing. It takes beep, little bit beep, do a little beep, beep. Getting a walk-in appointment for the booster downtown Seattle is nearly impossible. Yeah, if you're in downtown in a major city, getting a walk-in appointment is going to be tough. You can get it a day or two in advance or whatever. You just online. You can just get the little thing. You get a cool sticker after. You get a cool sticker. Yeah, walk-ins are hard to get for any medical thing, you know? Cool, I'll let my 2-year-old to know she's in for a bad winter. How fucking self-centered do you have to be to look at this and think they're talking about, like, babies? Like, for the unvaccinated looking winter, so, oh, you're telling me my infant fetus baby child is going to die? Wow, thank you, Biden. Thank you for personally condemning my baby to death. Fuck you. Shut up. Jesus. It's insane. What the fuck? I just don't get what people are mad about. I just don't understand. What is this meant to indicate? You should be vaccinated, but the government should not be like, fuck you, enjoy death winter. Here's my proposition, okay? What if, hold on, what if Biden personally sent a mocking letter to the family of every single person who dies of COVID? What about that, okay? Personally signed, right? Every single time a person dies of COVID-19, he hand signs a mocking letter. You know, that's what you get, Jack. And then it has kind of a stencil of him smiling, you know, and then mails it to the household, okay? Now, it will cost money. You know, this will be a program we'll have to invest in, but I think it'll strengthen the American people. I think it'll make the country a better place. It's what you deserve, Jack. Best wishes. Mailed, it should be hand delivered by courier or like a carrier pigeon or something. Really nail, you know, the Joe Biden age demographic. Have people ride on horses. That shit would be badass though, you know? You know how when I don't know if they still do this, but you know how when soldiers die in service, officers come to the household with like a folded uniform and a flag? Do they still do that? Is that a thing that still happens, or was that kind of an old-timey tradition? I think so. So I think it still happens. Okay. I think that's quite a nice tradition, right? I mean that feels right, you know. I'm not a big fan of like nationalism or sentimentality through civil service or whatever, but the idea of like, you know, the state should formally recognize a sacrifice to the nation. The president also calls the families of dead soldiers as a tradition. That's going to be a really difficult thing to scale up for World War III, you know? That's going to be a really tough one. But hey, so yeah. So what I'm saying is instead of like the soldiers instead of like soldiers arriving with a folded uniform and a letter, you know, saying like, you know, I'm so sorry, and then like the widow like starts crying or whatever, instead they show up to the door of the household that recently had a COVID death, and it's like two guys from the post office doing the Fortnite L dance and like the, you know, the little jig, you know, and they're holding like a cake and like a letter stuck in the top, and it's from Biden. It's telling them fuck you, you know. It's like little clown. Got a little clown fucking doing cartwheels on the lawn or something. Just throw the cake in the face, fucking cream pie them. Oh, don't. No, god damn it. Regular pie them. Does this also apply to breakthrough deaths? Well, you have to be fair, don't you? Alright, enough of this. TPUSA is popping off today. What the fuck? Really? Isn't it incredible how, like, the same people who are doing the modern satanic panic are also the people who will immediately and shamelessly adopt every cultural trend that was considered degenerate the last decade? You know? Like, Trump was, like, born in the USA, which was, like, subversive counterculture shit, and, like, then they play rock and roll. They even play, like, fucking trap music. They played, like, EDM shit for the fucking opening of their talks. You know, like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, like it would have been, you know, they just want to fit in with the mainstream culture they hate. This is the thing, okay? They don't hate it, all right? Let's be clear. Since the beginning of modern reactionary conservatism, they don't hate modern culture. They like it, okay? This goes all the way back to slumming it or going to Harlem, you know, where racist conservative white people would go over to Harlem, where the black people were, and they would go enjoy, you know, black musicians and black dance crazes, and they would love it. But it was always a guilty pleasure, okay? This is the exact same phenomena that leads anti-gay politicians to like hook up with bath boys, you know, and then go and vote out their rights, or Alex Jones looking at trans porn, you know. They don't hate any of it. They like it. But to them it's a guilty pleasure. Go on 4chan. Look at all these you know, based tradcon Catholic groypers who cannot stop jerking it to interracial porn and like lolly hentai. Like literally, that's like, I swear to God, that's like 60% of 4chan. Okay, they cannot stop. Their brains are completely broken. They're completely broken. What do you mean Alex Jones watched trans porn? In a live video recording, he went through his phone, and one of the tabs on his, I guess, Safari was I think it was a Pornhub video, and the title was of a trans woman. Yeah, it was a porn video. Yeah, one of those sexy T girls type dealios. Yeah, no, that's real. Um, I can't show it on stream for obvious reasons, because I think there's a thumbnail in there that shows kind of the fleshy bits. But anyway, since time immemorial, okay, conservatives have denounced the things that they secretly enjoy. Okay, God, look at the Nazis, man. The Nazis were fucking degenerates. Seriously, look at the behavior of the Nazi elite. Look at their fucking officers and their government officials. Like, they were not upstanding moral. They weren't like, you know, like the clergy or whatever, you know. They didn't, and even the clergy can't stop raping little boys in the Catholic Church. They were not models of, like, you know, by their standards, virtue or upstanding behavior. They were degenerates. In fact, quite a lot of them were far worse, I think, than your average pre-Nazi Germany, you know, Wehrmacht, sorry, not Wehrmacht, fuck, what was the name of the government before? I've said this a million times. Weimar, thank you. Weimar Republic, yeah. They were, I think, quite a bit more degenerate, I think, than your average Weimar Republic citizen, but, you know, whatever. All I'm saying is the more far-right a person is today, the more likely you are going to find something incredibly suspect in their, like, saved search history or whatever. I don't just mean, like, pedo shit, which, hey, that too, but, you know, also just, like, crazy hentai, interracial cuckoldry porn, like, whatever, like, just stuff they would condemn, you know? Just stuff like that. Yeah, I'll give credit where credit's due. You guys have been way better with the combos lately, and I'm proud of you for that, okay? I just want you guys to know that. Not quite 50, thanks to Griff368. Or 365, sorry. 58, you know. Muted for 50 seconds. Nice. Farewell. But they don't really care about this. Okay, close that, close that. Here's a good video of mad white people in the 60s. Let me see. Imagine being so racist you can't even enjoy an iconic bop. I love iconic bops. Secretly like it, dude. If you do, you guys know about the YouTube channel Defunct History or Defunct something, Defunct Parks, Defunct? They recently did a video on the Fast Pass system at Disney. That one went viral, like really viral. Defunct Land. Thank you, Defunct Land. They had a video on a party thrown by Walt Disney, ye back in the 50s or 60s or something, after the completion of Snow White, I think, and in it, they talked about how there was a dance craze that some people had picked up from, like, a black club at the time, you know, and this was back during the segregation days, and you know, Walt was quite distressed that people were doing that dance at the party because, like, it was, you know, considered sort of a racy or well, like, racy in two senses, I guess. I accidentally added that video to my VOD playlist. Oh, did I? Oh, yeah. Well, you know, I'm on my, you know, professional account on my phone, so sometimes I was hit buttons, whatever. History of white people having no rhythm. No, it's just like, here, hold on. I'm sorry. Please enjoy the brief departure from the expected political content. I just want to look at this for a second, okay? Let me see if I can find, like, Harlem clubs slumming. Will that give me what I want? Like a video on white people going to Harlem to, let me see. No, this is Harlem in the 90s. I'm talking like Harlem, New York. Here, what about white people Harlem 1930s? I think that's when the trend was most. This be it? A cinema excursion into the great black metropolis of New York. Very to the point they were. Imagine not using 16:9 aspect ratio back in 1930, whatever. Is this a silent film? Hold on. YouTube just gave me the "We've detected copyright audio and video in your stream" alert. Haven't gotten that one in a while. Is this copyrighted? Well, there wasn't any audio. Is this copyrighted? Let me see. Does this have a copyright listed here? Viz News content, for licensing inquiries, visit the British Path. Yeah, it might be on YouTube content ID. Alas. Yeah, who ratted us out? Okay, wait, here we go. Wait, here's another one. Upscale with neural networks, 1911, New York footage taken by Swedish company Svenska Biografteatern on a trip to America. Cool. Colorization is this copyright ID? A Swedish company that recorded this in 1911. That was a long time ago. Am I willing to risk it? I'm a little willing to risk it. Let's see. My channel gets deleterinoed. Then we'll see. Hey, you got a copyright license? You got a license to broadcast that material from 5 trillion years ago? Excuse me. Oi! Oi! Toot toot! God damn, though. What's up? We used to be a real country. This looks like full motion video. It kind of does, yeah. Like you're playing a PS1 detective game where you're about to find out who killed, like, the dock workers at the wharf, you know? We ride. It's just like BioShock! It is crazy though, right? I mean, all memes aside, the community element, like just the ability to go outside and walk through a place and just be around other people, it is something, you know, that we don't... Yeah, like, look at all the grass people are touching. That's crazy. Okay, YouTube has turned off the warning for the copyrighted material. It was definitely that video we were watching. Hello, horse. All the audio is edited. Yes, the audio is edited in. This isn't the real audio. I'm pretty sure they couldn't capture audio back in 1911. At least not in conjunction with video, not like this. So the audio is being added in. In likelihood, it was probably quite a bit louder. Back in 1911, this was before vehicles had regulations which managed their exhaust output and also their noise. I'm pretty sure old cars were quite a bit louder than modern cars. The whole muffler thing hadn't really been perfected. Yeah, look how wide the sidewalks are. Holy shit, they keep... The streets just get wider and wider every year, but the... Oh, hello, my dude. I hope you're okay. Good luck, my man. He's dead? Yeah, that's true. He is probably dead now. What a good beard. Yes, everyone we see right now is dead. I guess it's conceivable that if one of the very young people we see ends up being one of those rare people who lives to 110. Nah, not even then, I don't think. Oh shit! Wait, is that Times Square? That's gotta be, right? There wasn't even a road and a sidewalk. There was just like some dividers to tell the cars not to go there. Oh, it's not Times Square? Flatiron Building? Okay, gotcha. I don't want to live in an era where everyone wears suits, but I do think it's nice that people dressed up before going out. You know? Not like in suits or whatever, just like, hey, we're going out. Let's dress up a little. Not like shame people who don't, just like, yeah, it's, you know, let's dress up a little. Everyone looks the same. Well, I'm not saying we should all wear suits. Hello, Racial Politics. How you doing, my guys? Doing good? Oh my god, they're getting crowded out by this dude. What the fuck? Look at this tailgating. There's like a 2-foot distance between these cars. They look so uncomfortable. Beep beep. Beep beep. Hey, look at all the smog. Beep beep. It is true that everyone looks like they're in no hurry. Like, I know a lot of these people have to be in a hurry, but nobody really looks like it, you know? Yeah, we vibin' in 1911. I like this building. It's pretty. Is this before Prohibition? Yeah, it would have been, right? Yeah, Prohibition was later. Oh, if you guys want to feel better, all the dudes we're looking at here are like 5'5". So, kings, yes. But 5'5" kings. Yes, you could destroy them. If you put one modern man in 1911 New York, you would be like a gorilla to the rest of them. You'd be like the Hulk, you know? They would be like swarming around you. Oi! Oi, stop him! What's he do? How is he so big? You know? And you'd be like flailing and like knocking just whole crowds of them aside with your arms, you know? Why are Americans so small in general? We're not. America actually has a relatively tall average height. A lot of it just has to do with malnutrition. You know, nowadays people tend to be better nourished than people back then. Why do you think early 1900s Americans sound like British people? Because it's funny to imagine. Markiplier is cute and short. Markiplier is fucking hot, okay? I don't know if Markiplier is short or whatever, but he is hot. If you showed a man from 1911 this picture, they would instantly die. They would instantly perish. He's not short, he's 5'10". Okay, then he's not short, he's tall. That's not tall. 5'10", I think, is tall, like, it's above average, like, internationally. In America, 5'10", like, might be average for a guy, I think. 5'10" is tall internationally, though. Keep in mind, China is, like, 10 feet below us, and that's, like, 1.5 billion people, so... Oh, that was refreshing, you know? We got to vicariously experience other people touching grass, which is kind of like doing it yourself, you know? Kind of sad to see how they had better public transit in 1911 than any other modern American city. Yeah, electric trams were pretty common back around the turn of the century. 100 years ago, electric trams were fairly common in large cities. But they got phased out to make more room for cars, which were, you know, centered, uh, you know, for individuality and crap. Yeah, Los Angeles knows all about that, too. Yeah, they would dig the rails up from the streets. Don't you miss this low-key? I wasn't alive back then, so I can't really miss it. You know. Yeah, the first commercial installation of an electric streetcar in the United States was built in 1884 in Cleveland, Ohio. You know? Let me see. By 1895, almost 900 electric street railways and nearly 11,000 miles of track had been built in the United States. 11,000 miles of electric streetcar track by 1889. I mean, that's, you know, relative to what they had back then, that's a significant investment. Excuse me. DeFeels. The Great Depression of the 1930s led to the closure of many streetcar lines in North America. The onset of World War II held off the closure of some streetcar lines as civilians used them to commute to war-related factory jobs during a time when rubber tires and gasoline were rationed. After the war, automobile use continued to rise and was assisted in the 1940s and 50s by the passage of the Trans-Canada Highway Act of 1948, and then later the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, which I think we're more familiar with. By the 60s, most American streetcar lines were closed, with only a few exceptions, so on, you know. Yes, Trans-Canada. There you go, guys. Gale, you hear that? All right. We've gotten quite distracted. We're 48 minutes into stream, and we haven't tackled a single fucking subject mentioned in the title. What if we did that, you know? What if, just as an experiment, we talked about the things that the title says we're going to talk about? Oh, wait, no, we did talk about the White House death ultimatum. That was a thing. I did put that in the title, you know. Excuse me. All right. Let it be clickbait. Well, you know, we do enough of that, you know. We do a bit of trolling. Let me see real quick. That's right. Hold on. That Charlemagne clip. You know what I'm talking about. Well, here's a CNN clip talking about it, which I don't care about. You know, I wanna get the actual clip. Where's the clip of that? Is the TPUSA event over? No, it's not. Hold on. Let me see. Can I find the damn clip? Only find a second of it. Hold on. You know, I never actually go that extra mile of looking for the material I'm going to talk about. I never actually do that, you know. It's just a step too far for me. If I look up Kamala on Twitter. Here we go. Ah, there we go. This is where I get all of my journalistic information from Brianna Joy Gray's Twitter. There we go. This is what I like to see, folks. CTHA God. Oh, by the way, I don't know if this is just me being white or whatever. I had never heard of Charlemagne the God before this. I understand that this is probably going to castigate me as some sort of eternally pale. Yeah, some extremely, incredibly white. Just some... First of all, Charlemagne wasn't a god. I don't get it. Look, anyway, here's a clip. You ain't black? Yeah, apparently voting for Biden doesn't track everything. All right, let's find it. Wonder if this is copyrighted. Probably.
Who's the superhero?
Oh my god, this is recorded from a television set. All right.
Speak against Joe Manchin. I want to know who's the real president of this country. Is it Joe Biden or Joe Manchin?
I'm sorry, I interrupted. I'm the vice president here. It's Simone. I'm so sorry, Charlotte. We have
She can hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Madam Vice
Okay, so
President?
I'm sorry. We got it right. So I'm sorry to interrupt.
They're acting like they can't hear me.
I can hear you.
Oh, so who's the real?
So for those of you who can't follow what just happened, as I understand it, Charlemagne asked Kamala Harris... Yeah, is there a better clip? Guys, you gotta help me out here. Kamala Harris was asked by Charlemagne if Joe Manchin is the real president because he's the one, apparently, who has the ability to decide whether or not... OG source good audio. Thank you. I don't know why it took you this long to bring it to me. Do you have, like, a timestamp for the pertinent moment? I imagine it'd be towards the end of the conversation.
Hear me.
Here we go. Perfect. Thank you. So for those of you who couldn't follow that, and let's listen to the end of it again with better audio.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me, Madam Vice President?
So I'm sorry. We got it right.
Oh.
So I'm sorry to interrupt.
They're acting like they can't hear me. Y'all see that?
I can hear you.
Oh,
So what happened there was Charlemagne asked Kamala Harris who the real president is, and in response, one of Kamala's staffers stepped in and essentially tried to cut the interview, saying that we couldn't hear you, you know, it's not working, and we have to cut it now. So, which is really, really weird, you know. But
who's the real president of this country? Is it Joe Manchin or Joe Biden, Madam Vice President?
Come on, Charlemagne. It's Joe Biden.
I can't tell sometimes.
No. It's Joe Biden, and don't start talking like a Republican about asking whether or not he's president.
Do you think Joe Manchin is a problem?
It's Joe Biden, and I'm vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris. And the reality is, because we are in office, we do the things like the child tax credit, which is going to reduce black child poverty by 50%, on track to do that. We do things that are about saying that our Department of Justice is going to do these investigations and require that we end chokeholds and have body cameras. It is the work of saying we're going to get lead out of pipes and paint because our babies are suffering because of that. It is the work of saying people who ride public transit deserve the same kind of dignity that anybody else does. So let's improve that system. It is the work of saying that we have got to bring down prescription drug costs because folks who have diabetes should not be dying because they don't have enough money in their pocket.
I'm sometimes accused of engaging in overanalysis, but I think that this non-answer from Kamala Harris is almost immediately disqualifying for any future presidential run. It is almost extraordinary how bad this is in so many ways. I feel like I could talk for 20 minutes about how bad it is. So, I mean, I'll try. Let's go. Okay, so first of all, this is obviously a non-answer. The contention that Charlemagne is levying is that Joe Biden doesn't have any real power within his party because Joe Manchin is the one with the real, you know, kill switch on whether or not this legislation goes through. So the question he's asking, there is a direct answer to his question, by the way. You know, the direct answer that Kamala Harris could give is simply, it was a close race in the Senate. We have a dead even gridlock. No Republican will vote for our legislation, which will help the American people. If we're able to get a larger majority over Republicans, then there's a greater likelihood we'll be able to pass our legislation. It's simple. That's a factual answer. That's factual. It's simple right there. Yeah, this is very real Hillary energy. That's a true thing to say. Is it like super grandiose? Not really, but it's true, and I think that there's some respect to be given for a frank answer. What she does instead, first of all, is this incredibly cringe Hillary tier posturing. No, 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 no. It's Joe Biden. Don't you go talking like a Republican, and I'm the vice president, and my name is Kamala Harris. You know, what is that Game of Thrones quote? Anyone who has to proclaim himself a king isn't one, or something like that? Some shit like that. Like, if at any point, like, you're indignantly responding to a question with and my name is this, you know, it comes off as remarkably insecure and girl bossy. You guys know what I mean, right? I'm fumbling for words here a little bit because I feel like there's an almost intuitive rejection of that kind of language from a politician, you know, like it comes off as so weak, like your actions don't speak for themselves. And then compounding upon that perceived weakness, Kamala Harris then goes on to answer a separate question that Charlemagne didn't ask, which is what's different between Democrats and Republicans. He didn't ask that. That's not what he asked. And then went on to list a bunch of things that the Democrats want to do, which, funnily enough, are also things they're not going to be able to do because Joe Manchin refuses to vote in favor of the Build Back Better plan. So she's literally listing things that they can't do because of Joe Manchin in response to Charlemagne doubting Joe Biden's power because Joe Manchin won't let him do these things. Like, this is a non-answer that actually rolls back around into being an answer to his question, just making his point for him. It's extraordinary. I mean, she's clearly panicking here, you know. She's not this uncharismatic normally. That plus the weird behavior from her aide really suggests to me, like, that's very strange. An aide just interrupting an interview like that, like, sorry, we have technical problems, we need to go. That's a very weird, that's very strange. I wonder what preconditions or what conversation was had beforehand. I don't know if that aide fumbled the ball or if they were told to make up an excuse to cut the interview if a certain topic was brought up. You know, like, if Charlemagne brings up this, then do this, or if this much time passes, do this, or if there's a signal I give, do this. But however they decided to handle that, that was incredibly weird. It just came off as panicked and, yeah, just deeply disconcerting. But anyway, let's finish this. So maybe she'll list some more things they can't do because of Joe Manchin.
It's about saying Black maternal mortality is a real issue that must be treated by everybody, including the White House, as a serious issue. I hear the frustration, but let's not deny the impact that we've had and agree also that there is a whole lot more work to be done.
She's literally like listing things that they haven't done because of Joe Manchin, which was the point. That was the original point. That was the point.
And it is not easy to do, but we will not give up, and I will not give up.
I just want you to know that Madam Vice President, that Kamala Harris,
please,
that's the one I like. That's the one.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I don't care about Charlemagne. I've literally never heard him before. I don't care. This isn't about him versus her. It's about her. Okay. I don't know, and I don't care. It's about her. Yeah, soy, etc., etc. Girl boss, queen, yes, slay. Her behavior there was incredibly bad. I mean, you guys know that she's going to gear for a presidential run. You know, obviously. It's exceedingly unlikely that she doesn't. And behavior like this, I mean, how do I hate to actually like play favorable comparisons here, but to his credit, I feel like, yeah, it would be her or Pete. Either Pete's vice president, she's pres, or Pete's president, she's vice. But that seems like the most likely. You know, I think I you know, one way, hell world either way, but you know, I think in a way, I actually think that Joe Biden is kind of refreshing here because his demented, senile, like, you know, sundowning aesthetic contains within it almost a kind of unintentional sincerity that is sometimes rather refreshing, if that makes any sense. If you watch Joe Biden back during his interviews or during his when he went on CNN to do that like big rundown, remember? This was like before the election. You know, he answers things, I think, pretty directly. That's not to say he's like, you know, my friend or whatever. Just I think it kind of comes along with him being 500 years old. You know what I mean? He might be at this point, I think, incapable of lying because lying requires more thought than telling the truth because you have to maintain that lie and hold it in your head. It might just be a cognitive process that he's not capable of anymore. You could like ask him, you know, you like never ask Joe Biden, you know, what like anything he thinks about a friend or a close relative of his or anything like that, you know, because he might just blurt out some shit. You have no goddamn idea. Dangerous stuff, you know, a man who can't lie. Kamala Harris, though, just a politician in every negative sense of the word, if you know what I mean. What are the nuclear codes? I'm glad you asked, Jack. You know, 587, you know, epsilon 8, you know, theta gamma. Yeah, you know, Putin fervently typing it into the keyboard, you know, getting ready. No, Joe. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Joe. Or something like that. Yeah, now they have to change the code again. Fuck. Alas. Yeah, I really don't like Kamala Harris. I really, really don't. I think, you know, Kamala Harris had a relatively progressive platform in the Senate prior to running as VP. And there were some accusations levied at Kamala Harris that I think were fairly dishonest from the left. For example, some of the stuff pertaining to like her treatment of trans people or like her locking people up when she worked in California. I think a lot of stuff was misrepresented there. It wasn't anywhere near as bad as people were making it out to be. Not to say it's good necessarily, just things were overstated. But her honestly, my feelings of her as a vice president is it feels like she just isn't even there. Like, do any of us even like follow what she's doing at all? Like, I feel like she has almost no presence on the on what is going on. And I understand vice presidents tend to be more, you know, removed, but the thing is we kind of expected her to take a more active role given the special context with her and Biden. Biden being ancient and Kamala Harris being, to be fair, ambitious. So I kind of expected, you know, as a product of the not unlikely possibility that she might be adopting the role of the presidency if Joe Biden died or was infirm, that she might be a more active presence, you know? But not really. And then we have this, you know, and it just comes off as kind of pathetic and desperate and defensive. Like she's been eating, you know, a whole bunch of political talking points, you know, just like very, very basic, very cynical euphemisms to run through when questioned and just run it past on that. You're gonna pull a diction. Well, I don't think it's that conniving. No, it's pathetic mainly. It's just I feel like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Americans want a populist. Americans want people who will actually tell it like it is. You know, everyone says they want a person who will tell it like it is. Trump told some things like it is. You know, Trump lied constantly. He lied about almost everything he said, but his attitude was always authentic. That was his authenticity. The statements that he made were more often incorrect and dishonest than they were correct or honest. But the way he talked, the attitudes that he had, that was fairly straightforward. I think Biden is a relatively straightforward person as politicians go. You know, nowhere near Bernie tier. Bernie is like the triple S platinum plus tier in terms of straightforwardness from a, you know, presidential candidate. It's nothing else. It's him and then a deep, wide fucking gulf. And then you've got everyone else scurrying around in the pit. But I think Biden was relatively good as people in the pit go. I think that Kamala Harris would be quite bad at that. You know, I think it would be quite terrible. I would not like that at all. Let me see. Biden can do stuff like this every once in a while, at least. What is this? This from Charlie Kirk. My team just forwarded this video to me. Watch former Vice President Biden forcefully grab one of our young field staffers at yesterday's Iowa State Fair when she asked him how many genders there are. Hold on! What is this?
Good job. Thank you, man. By the way, first one came out to marry.
My name is Katie. I am born and raised in Iowa, and I am currently a student in Iowa. Today, I showed up at the state fair to ask former Vice President Joe Biden a question about gender. When I asked the question, it took a few seconds for the question to register, and then he responded with 3.
I think, when was this? This was from August 9th, 2019. This was before he was president.
I asked a follow-up question. I asked, okay, what are they? Joe Biden looked at me and said, don't mess with me, kid.
Fucking base, dude. Holy shit.
I turned to walk away, and then it doesn't stop there. He grabs my arm and pulls me back to make eye contact with him again, and he yells something about marriage at me.
What a Chad.
By the way, first one came out to marry.
So I walked away, and I was mad, just very, very mad that.
Yeah, I'd
someone
be
would
too if
actually
I got
treat me
owned like that.
There you go. Thank you.
This is so good. This is my president. Yeah, he means gay marriage. Yeah, this is my president. Okay, this is the guy I voted for. Okay, fucking TPUSA student journalist comes out. How many genders are there, Mr. Former Vice President Joe Biden? He bops him in the face. At least 3, Jack. By the way, I married your dad. And he walks off. That's what I'm talking about, okay? No fucking malarkey. Just don't fuck with me, kid. At least 3, Jack. Yeah, she got. Why are they mad? She got corn cobbed. You know what do you damn, you're gonna publicize that? Yeah. My name is TPUSA bitch, and I got corn cobbed by No Malarkey Joe. Why would you brag about that? Why wouldn't you just fade away into non-exist? Why wouldn't you just disappear? It's just leave. Just go run away to another country. At least 3 is such an unbelievably based answer. The funny thing is, that's exactly what I mean about a good progressive politician who will hold the line on progressive issues, but won't make a big deal of it. You know what I mean? Like, not like the wrong answer there would have been some super virtue signally 30-second pre-prepped speech about, you know, the nature of gender identity framed through whatever the Democratic Party can figure out because it's run by 80-year-olds or whatever. The good answer, you know, at least 3, you know, do you think America's original sin was racism? Racism's bad, Jack. Bam! You know, just that's it. Just, yeah, short and quippy, just like that, you know, just easy like that. Then just move on with it, you know, don't even, yeah, racism's bad. Bam! Like fucking get just whatever, you know. How do you feel about trans people in bathrooms? Let people pee where they want to pee, Jack. No malarkey. Bah! Fucking get them. Just whatever, you know. How do you feel about critical race theory being taught in our schools? What don't you want them to teach? Well, they shouldn't teach that one race is better than the other. Yeah, you're right, they shouldn't. Anything else? Well, they shouldn't teach racism. Yeah, they shouldn't. Anything else? Like, you know, it's like, that's just to get the fucking get the, you know, sweat beating at their forehead. I agree, Jack, you know. That's why I teach uncritical race theory. It's good. It's good. Based Biden. God. Genuine question. I'm pretty ignorant to gender, but as I understand it, if gender is imaginary, doesn't that mean there are either 0 genders or unlimited genders, depending on how you think of it? There are 2 genders that are socially recognized in the United States. In terms of how many genders there are objectively, that's a meaningless question, because there's no such thing as an objective signifier for what a gender is. You might as well ask how many colors there are. Like, it's meaningless, you know? Like, you could divide and categorize things in an unlimited number of ways with no way of objectively determining which is more valid than the other, you know. Though it should be noted that with regards to color theory and recognizing how many colors there are, usually a greater degree of specificity provides more utility. So you can make the argument that with gender, much in the same way, a greater degree of potential specificity would increase utility, you know. That having broad categorizations like man and woman is really, really dumb because you're fitting so much crap in there that it stops meaning anything descriptively. There are colors the human eye can't even register? Well, yeah, I mean, theoretically, all wavelengths of the electromagnetic spectrum could be registered as a color when we perceive it. But color is a perceptive thing. It's a psychological phenomena. It's our brain essentially color-coding different wavelengths of light that we pick up with our visual receptors, but they're not, the colors don't exist in reality, really. It's, you know, if our eyes were capable of perceiving it, we could see things within the X-ray spectrum or the gamma ray spectrum as being certain types of color, you know. Ultraviolet and infrared are both outside of our visual spectrum, but there are animals that exist today that can see in them, and we can't perceive those colors. We don't have a way of psychologically distinguishing what they are. Which is kind of neat, you know. Yes, mantis, shrimp, and bees can see more colors than we can, as can a number. Most animals, I think, can see quite a bit fewer colors than we can. Happy 2 years, Rookard. Happy to have you here for so long. We love you. Interestingly, are animals that only see contrast with their eyes, so they don't label the wavelengths with color, they just see a difference in relative wavelengths. Well, that's what we do for the most part, too. Most of our, like 90% of our visual receptors are the rods, which simply register contrast in the total amount of photons that we're getting off of, you know, different areas. The contrast is more important, I think, than the color itself. There's an excellent video from Captain Disillusioned, if you guys would be interested in seeing it. I don't think it's copyrighted. We can watch that, then we can do the TPUSA thing. Be a nice little I think I've literally looked at it before on stream, but it's such a good video that I don't really care. It's just a really fucking good video. Let's watch it after. Nope, too late. Already pulled it up. You guys are just going to have to deal with a 7-minute video of a guy talking about color theory.
Hang on, let's optimize the thumbnail. Brighten it up. Punch up the contrast.
I don't care. Watch me
White
not
balance
care.
on the silver. Teeth. Now,
we've seen this before.
Saturate. Saturate. Saturate.
Mad?
The most important thing to recognize about color is that it doesn't actually exist.
True.
It's true. Electromagnetic energy exists all around you. And if we sort it by wavelength, your vision is sensitive to a small sliver of that spectrum. But the sliver isn't literally filled with the vibrant hues shown in diagrams, it's just the waves. And you don't sense all of them with one organ. The back of a typical human eye is peppered with 4 kinds of photoreceptors. One kind, the rods, is for seeing in low light, and it doesn't matter right now. But the other 3, the cones, specialize in being sensitive to long, medium, and short wavelengths of light. The sorts of wavelengths that tend to bounce off stuff that is all over Earth. How convenient. There is a lot of overlap between these 3 sensitivities. In fact, it's impossible to perceive the pure signal from just one type of cones. All visual information that gets to the brain is a combination of at least 2. These combinations feel like different hues, spanning every frequency of the visible spectrum.
Wild.
That's a pretty dicey method for telling things apart if you think about it. I mean, when you see orange light, you might be looking at a single source emitting waves of that frequency, or you might be looking at multiple sources emitting multiple frequencies that combine to stimulate your cones in the exact same way. The eye can't tell the difference. You can even perceive a combination of opposite ends of the spectrum as a hue. Purple and magenta don't exist at any individual frequency, but are a mix of the longest and shortest visible waves. It's all a three-dimensional blob of perception possibilities, or if you want to be fancy about it and use math, a spectrum locus plotted inside the cone excitation space. Or, if you average out the dimension of brightness, a melty triangle of all observable hues. Every color is an imbalance between the three cone outputs.
Yeah, this is how gender
The more
works,
balance
guys.
there is, the less saturated a color seems, until proportionally equal outputs just look like no color at all. Remember, this whole chromaticity diagram is just what happens in your head. For people with atypical color perception or other animals, the diagram might be shaped differently and filled with different values, but it's just as valid an interpretation of the achromatic energy hell that is the real world. And let's not discriminate against machines either. Display devices and print mediums all have their own, usually more limited color gamuts. You're watching this as a Rec 709 image displayed in the modest sRGB color space. But that's okay. A limited palette works fine as long as the color relationships remain the same. That's why things don't seem too weird in different lighting environments, and also why it's okay to simplify the chromaticity diagram into a circle. The hue circle, with all its pleasing color geometry, works because it's an abstraction of human vision itself. And you know who figured that out? This guy.
What a Chad jawline.
This mother. While establishing the foundational laws of classical mechanics as a side project, pretty much figured all this out. He understood that color is a byproduct of physical and psychological phenomena before there was indoor plumbing or electricity.
Yeah, Newton
before people
got no
knew
pussy, though.
atoms existed. He drew the hue circle before the invention of photography. What the What are we doing with our lives? Oh, you didn't like that someone you liked a tweet by someone you didn't like? Dude used to grind his own lenses. A century and a half later, James Clerk Maxwell figured out the electromagnetic spectrum and described the three-color separation principle, which became the basis of pretty much all color imaging technology. And a century and a half after that, we still use Newton's hue circle as a standard visual aid for additive color relationships. It's handy for figuring out effective color palettes in digital art and for performing intricate color grading on moving images. Here, the goal is to push the relatively limited color space to somehow convey the depths of human visual experience and imagination. To do this right, we need to inform our perceptions with reliable measuring instruments, mainly a vectorscope and waveform monitor. These used to be expensive, dedicated pieces of hardware, but now they're just a click away in all your favorite video editing applications.
The future is wild.
The vectorscope plots where the colors of your image fall in terms of hue and saturation on the hue circle. Neutral tones not sitting in the middle, pull them over. Neon lights oversaturated, rein them into the nearest primary color box. Skin tone looking a little weird? Get it somewhere on the standard skin tone vector. Vector. Vectorscope. Oh, I get it. But the waveform is arguably more important. It plots the luminance of your image over the total dynamic range of the color space you're working in. It's a way to ensure your shadows are dark enough, your highlights bright enough, and your midtones are just right. Imagine the picture printed in black and white on a plastic transparency, then distorted in such a way that the brighter an area is, the higher its relief. Looking at that edge on from the bottom is what the trace of a waveform shows. And for even more detail, you can look at a parade of each of the three color channels' luminance. Why so much scrutiny on the waveform? Well, remember the unimportant rods in your retina? There are about 94 million more of them than the color-sensing cones. You're designed to prioritize contrast.
This editing is so obnoxious, these sound effects give me a panic attack. Now, I think that this guy is maybe top of the line in terms of delivering a really complicated, like, subject material in, like, very little time in a very understandable way. I think this is, yeah, some of the highest quality shit there is on the platform.
Way over color. It's what makes chroma subsampling possible, and why color blindness is not really a big deal. Many people with color deficiency in their vision don't even realize they have it until later in life. And in this fascinating art experiment, painter Marco Bucci demonstrates how almost completely random colors can look sensible in paintings with well-defined black and white tones. So, to summarize what we've learned, so if you're trying to make your videos look good with some basic primary color correction, don't overdo it. Just establish a good tone profile, consistent from shot to shot, and only tweak the actual color hues subtly to taste.
All right, well, anyway, now we know about how color works. It's a very good channel, you know. It's quite a bit larger than me, so I'm not, like, shouting him out or anything, but yeah, it's extremely good stuff. Yeah, they have... Why do we watch that again? Because I wanted to. I can watch whatever. What do you think this is? A politics live stream? I'm a Bloodborne live streamer, okay? Everything that I do that isn't Bloodborne is entirely at my whim. I have no obligations whatsoever. Anyway, what channel is it? Captain Disillusion. All right, hold on. Reading TPUSA. You fucking know it. TPUSA. Let's go to the day 2 VOD. Because today's day 3. Day 2 was yesterday. We gotta take a look. Live feed. Get me in. Get me in. Okay, here we go. Day 2. AMFest day 3. So that should link to the same YouTube channel. Where's the live feed? Where's the live feed? Live feed? Do we not? Where's the live feed? Days ago, check out the most unforgettable moment. Where? Where? Do I check shows? Why are they hiding this from me? Watch live. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Jesus. Took me a while to find. All right. It's time for the ultimate in observing people's mental breakdowns. The last one that we watched was with Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson, and it was just unbearable. Honestly, it was like grinding sandpaper against my eardrums. Here we had quite a few people. Now it opens with Don Jr., but I heard that wasn't even the star of the event. You know, we have Sarah Palin here, I'm pretty sure, and we also had Dennis Prager. And I heard that the Dennis Prager one was particularly noteworthy. Let me see. With these very excellent low-quality thumbnails, it's not easy to find out where exactly Dennis Prager is. Does it say? Do we have a... I don't know why I would expect them to have timestamps on their video, which is made to accompany this incredibly expensive event. I have no idea why I would expect that. No comments? Yeah. Jim Jordan is also insane. True. Hold on. Let's peek around for a little bit, huh?
If you're 90, it's maybe different. If you have a pre-existing condition, it's...
Great.
Doing anything that she can do.
Great. Great.
I still will stand up for those people in the Washington, D.C. jail.
Great.
So, okay, it's deconstructionist in nature. It's about trying to question...
Is this James Lindsay? This is James Lindsay, right? That's Lindsay, yeah. James Lindsay is the most psychotic freak on Twitter. I have no doubt this guy is wearing a diaper right now.
Heteronormative.
Her eyes are responsive.
That's the next thing you know, Glenn.
That's not Dennis Prager.
Because if you
This guy's not Dennis Prager.
value all immigration, we can talk about the stuff doing.
War. Back in the day.
You. Of course.
Nobody is Dennis Prager. All right, nobody's Dennis Prager. I guess that's your answer right there, isn't it? I want to see what Sarah Palin is up to. You know how long it's been since I've heard her talk? Oh, she's sharing the stage with Charlie Kirk, it seems.
Bold, courageous, loud, louder than they are. They're after
That's
what it is
true.
that we represent. What I hope it is that we represent, because I want to represent it, is true. This track record should have allowed all of us to anticipate nothing but negative, nothing but bad, nothing but tragedy would happen under this man's watch. Divided we fall, and united is where we need to be in order to stand. The status quo is
Yeah,
gonna
I'd like to
go
say they're
because the
dropping
American
beats.
People are taking our country back.
I'm a true champion.
Look at this. I like. It's Death Grips. Yeah, it's Death Grips. Yeah, it's Death Grips. The band I don't know. Death Grips songs. All right, moving along before I get copyrighted. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I agree.
Hey, everybody. Morning.
Hey,
Governor,
Charlie.
great to see you.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Oh, all this good energy. Right on.
So we love having you at our events, and there's a lot happening in the country right now.
Uh-huh.
So I just where do you think the conservative movement is? And isn't it inspiring to see this many young people from all across?
You guys have no idea how inspiring it is, and for old folks like me, to realize that you all are you're in the arena. You all paying attention to what's going on, but even more than that, you being engaged and proposing your own solutions, how we can take this back. And this helps people like me to stay really enthused about what's going on in the conservative movement.
So, Governor, this year there's been kind of the rise of the activist mom going to school boards across the country. Talk about the mama bears that are rising up and taking back America.
Yeah, the mama bears. So,
flashback to that clip of the one woman screeching about anal sex at the school board meeting before she was muted and taken away.
that was me like 30 years ago, before mama bears were cool. I was a mama bear. I, too, years ago, had recognized in my own town that, in my case, in my town, there were a lot of private property rights that were being infringed upon. So I ran for office and served on city council, then was elected mayor and city manager.
Okay, I'm looking at the scheduling for the previous day, and Dennis Prager was supposed to come on at 2:15, which would have been 5 hours and 15 minutes after the event began, but this video only lasts for 4 hours 54 minutes. So my guess is that it's part of another second video, that the stream got cut out or they paused it briefly. And that, yeah, here we go. So this is day 2, session 1. Where's day 2, session 2? What are they hiding from us? Huh? 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 So here's day 3, session 1. Where's day 2, session 2? What are they hiding? What are they hiding from us? Prager at top? This is 3 minutes. I want the whole damn thing. What are they hiding, huh? Huh? Who pooped themselves on stage? Huh? Who had an oopsie poopsie? Come on. Fess up.
And then I moved on up from there, realizing how important it is for moms and everybody else to be engaged in the local level. The most responsive and responsible level of government is that local level. And, that's where all the change really starts.
1.1.
That's where the change has to happen in our nation, again, in order for us to get this back. So, yeah, moms who will, like the mama grizzly, like what we have up there in Alaska all over the place, a mama's going to just rear up on those hind legs and protect her cubs. She's going to protect that next generation, doing anything that she can do to make sure that, that next generation is safe and secure and free.
Yeah, another testament to the strength of Republican messaging is that they really make an effort to adopt diversity of messaging, They'll have like Ben Shapiro nerdy debate lord types. They'll have, mama bear this, that, or the other. They'll bring like everyone over, like every aesthetic, every type of people they can get, Whereas with the Democrat events, I don't really get that feeling. It just feels like everyone's kind of in the same, progressive Democrat bloc. It's harder to reach out to other groups.
And so I think we have some students from Alaska. I asked last night. We have someone from Alaska here. They're right there. So you got a couple people. Yeah. Wow, that's a long flight. So Governor, but yet we've seen the Department of Justice and Merrick Garland now try and criminalize parents that are showing up to school boards across the country, calling them potential domestic terrorists. Why is the federal government doing that?
Yeah, I don't know, but it's like, bring it on. You know, to me, that it's
really
motivating. You know, when someone like Merrick is yakking like that, you know that you're doing something right. So, you know, let them do that. Let them do that. And let that be empowerment and fuel for you all when we are.
So I think that what they're referring to is this from the Department of Justice. Justice Department addresses violent threats against school officials and teachers. So they're not talking about people just showing up to PTA meetings. They're talking about people making threats against people at PTA meetings. So, you know, obviously those are distinct things right there. Citing an increase in harassment, intimidation, and threats of violence against school board members, teachers, and workers in our nation's public schools, today Attorney General Merrick B. Garland directed the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office to meet in the next 30 days with federal, state, tribal, territorial, and local law enforcement leaders to discuss strategies for addressing this disturbing trend. So, I mean, sure. You know, maybe we are going to roll back. Maybe it is going to be necessary for teachers to carry guns at school, but not to defend themselves against school shooters. It'll be to defend themselves against, like, screeching red-faced Karens, you know, shrilly talking about anal sex as they storm the school with their AR-15s and ammo belts strapped around their neck.
Are criticized and condemned and mocked even for our activism.
True.
I use that as fuel. It just motivates me to get out there, you know, even more aggressively. Again, you know that you're doing something right when you're taking those people off.
Well, and what's been so inspiring is how more parents started to show up to these school board meetings. And we can't forget the dads who also showed up to these school board meetings as well. But we all know it really was the moms that was leading the movement in a variety of different ways. So, Governor, a lot of people say, I want to get involved, but I'm afraid that I might be called bad names or I might lose friends. Is it worth it?
Welcome to my world. That's just, yeah, it's worth it. It's
You're
worth
a wealthy
it if you care
politician.
at all about, you know, our charters of liberty in this nation, if you care at all about what it means to be an American, and if you're concerned about, especially a younger generation, not understanding what it means to be an American, yeah, it's worth it, all that criticism. I, you know, live by that mantra too. A pastor out of Bethel in Redding, California, he had said, if you don't live by man's praise, you're not going to die by man's criticism. And I think about that all the time. You know, those who are going to criticize and, like I say, and mock and try to tell you to sit down and shut up, I just can brush that aside because I know that, you know, it really matters not what man thinks of me and my activism. When you know that you know that you know that you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing, you just take those darts and arrows and it's fine.
So keep in mind, so those of you who weren't around back in 2008, it's important to establish context, okay? Sarah Palin isn't mentally unwell, as is the case with many of her compatriots. She's just very stupid. Just in case you were wondering, I don't think it's drugs or anything. She's just not bright. She's never been bright. She's just kind of stupid. That's just always been kind of what she's about. 2008 Palin was worse. I actually do think she is better now than she was 13 years ago. Yeah, I agree.
You've been the recipient of such unfair treatment from the media. How do you handle that? And what's your advice for people to be able to navigate that?
Isn't it strange how, I mean, we're all wired differently. God puts within us, you know, in our DNA, I think you too, an ability to take that, right? To take that criticism and to be able to brush it off. Because I really don't care at all what the critics say, because as I say, if I were hesitant at all in my beliefs in what I know that this country needs, then, you know, maybe I would give it more consideration, all that condemnation. But because I'm right. So
I do appreciate the fact that a significant portion of this TPUSA event is dedicated to multi-millionaire politicians telling their audiences that they're going to have to deal with being unpopular and unloved for their political beliefs, you know? It is remarkable how much of this is... Because this never happens when left-leaning people get up there. They're never like, yeah, you may lose friends, lose money, lose your job, get your family to disown you, everything. But hey, you know, that's just the price you have to pay for getting to be in the cool kids club, which is with us, you know? It's remarkable. It's very defensive.
It doesn't bother me what they're going to say, because I know I'm right.
Oh, by the way, right now, if you in YouTube chat don't like the stream, I am literally going to commit a pogrom against YouTube chatters. Okay? It'll be bad. It's going to go down in the history books. All right? It's going to be really bad. Okay? People aren't even going to remember me as a YouTuber. They're just going to remember me as that guy who somehow committed an ethnic cleansing of YouTube chatters, you know? There will be a lot of confusion in the wiki article. They're going to be like, how did he do that? How did he get info on all of them? You know, how is it an ethnic cleansing if it's YouTube chatters? Is that even an ethnicity? But, you know, the only answers they will get to their inquiries is the cold silence of a mass grave. So just, you know, work on that.
Now,
Also
Governor, there's
subscribe.
a raging debate, even though there shouldn't be, about mandatory vaccines and the vaccine in general. And do you have some thoughts on that, Governor?
Wait! Oh my God! Remember, this was just from today. Oh my God! I needed to fit this in somewhere, and if it's gonna be here, it's gonna be here. Oh my God!
We did something that was historic. We saved tens of millions of lives worldwide. We, together, all of us, not me, we got a vaccine done, 3 vaccines done, and tremendous therapeutics like Regeneron and other things that have saved a lot of lives. We got a vaccine done in less than 9 months. It was supposed to take from 5 to 12 years. Because of that vaccine, millions and millions of people, I think this would have been the Spanish flu of 1917, where up to 100 million people died. This was going to ravage the country far beyond what it is right now. Take credit for it. Take credit for it. It's a great, what we've done is historic. Don't let them take it away. Don't take it away from ourselves. You're playing right into their hands when you sort of like, oh, the vaccine. If you don't want to take it, you shouldn't be forced to take it. No mandates, but take credit because we saved tens of millions of lives. Take credit. Don't let them take that away from you.
Okay, so the president made news.
Do you agree with that?
Right? Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so...
Don't. That's it's a very tiny...
That feel when your strategy of allowing your constituency to die to the plague is not a good long-term strategy. That feel when.
Yes, I do. Yeah, and I'm glad you asked. Yeah. Yeah, well, do you remember Fauci had said, and he's just
Dr.
the
Fauci.
biggest shyster out there on TV.
2 masks.
Every time I listen to him, it drives me crazy because he's the most inconsistent talking head
Dr. Fauci.
I've come across. Do you remember he said that if you had COVID, this was months and months ago, you would be naturally then immune, of course. So at the time, we were led to believe we wouldn't need to, have the shot, right? Well, then they changed their tune, and now those of us who have had COVID, they're telling us that even though we've had it and we have natural immunity.
At no point did he ever say, if you've had COVID, you shouldn't get the vaccine. That has absolutely never happened. He has never said that, okay? Yes, if you get a disease, you will enjoy some degree of natural immunity for some time. That's the case for, like, most diseases. He has at no point has he said you do not need the vaccine if you've gotten COVID.
Now that we still have to get a shot. And it'll be over my dead body that I'll have to get a shot. I will not do it.
Sure. Fine.
I won't do it, and
okay.
They better not touch my kids either, because that's where the...
Well, Governor, some
That's
people
her
say, though,
husband's
I
job.
might lose my job. I might get kicked out of school.
Yeah,
Then
I know.
do it.
And,
then do it. Lose everything. Do it. Get kicked out of school. Lose your job. Die in a subway rail car station, okay? All of it is worth it to just avoid the free, easily available vaccine that has significantly lower likelihood of causing side effects than the disease it's protecting you from. Just anything. Just, you know what? Honestly, conservatives, Charlie Kirk says, just kill yourself. Just anything to avoid. Do a Jonestown. Drink the Kool-Aid. Whatever. Anything to avoid getting the Fauci-ouchie. Dr. Fauci.
You know, I think if enough of us, though, rise up and say, no, enough is enough, there are more of us than there are of them. So for us to be hesitant and for us to kind of wait for somebody else to take this on and, you know, stand up and say, you know, no, enough is enough. You need to all look around and realize that as you stiffen your spine and, you know, take those positions that you know are right, especially when it comes
them,
to
they mean the Jews.
Government telling us what we have to inject in our own bodies. You know, no. Realize that those around you, as you stiffen your spine, their spines too will stiffen. And
you guys remember that TikTok craze of like, and it's always like old white women, you know, where they would get the vaccine and then they would like fake having the shakes for like a dramatic YouTube video. Like they'd get it and then someone would hold a video being like, she's been like this all week and she's, you know, and like everyone would make fun of it. And of course, like they're faking it, like obviously, you know, maybe there's like, yeah, the magnets, you know, maybe there's some like psychosomatic or mental illness shit going on, but like, I remember that. It was just a craze. Yeah, the woman who lied about being magnetic. It's just really funny stuff. The spine will stiffen? What the fuck are you talking about?
there is an empowerment in a group like this where you all can realize and kind of feed off each other and really be strengthened to be able to stand up boldly, confidently, and tell government officials, no, get off our back. Get back on our side, get off our back, especially when it comes to this specific issue.
So let's see. So according to the federal government and Fauci, it's 100% safe and effective. So this needs to be done. I did this on our wonderful campus tour for...
No. It was advertised as 95% effective originally for the one, and then 90% for the other. Nobody said 100%.
With our Turning Point USA chapters, I want you to listen to the question carefully. I want you to raise your hand if
Pfizer
you or someone you know personally had a serious adverse event to this vaccine. Raise your hand.
It's gonna be every single one of you. Incredible. What a remarkable... Good thing this is how data collection is done. Wow, oh my god, every single person here knows somebody who's died to the vaccine.
Almost every single hand in this room.
Yeah, of course, naturally. By the way, guys, I know 0 people who have had an adverse effect of the vaccine. Chat, how many of you? Be honest. How many of you? Yeah, and there are more people watching this stream right now than there are people packed into that audience. Now, that's not to say it's impossible for there to be adverse vaccine effects. It's absolutely possible that that's the case. You know, you can have a slight, sometimes, occasionally, you know, moderate to severe. But yeah, every single one of them. You know, this is like those people who, you know, like somebody will get a vaccine and then later they'll die of something else and they'll blame the vaccine or whatever. You know.
Was raised. For the con artists out of the media, it's either what's going on here? Maybe there's something that is so beyond what's not being reported that when you have thousands of hands that go up in a room like this, I don't know about you, but I know personal stories of some very tragic reactions. Now,
yes, anecdote. Yes. What they mean is that there was a Facebook meme they spread around talking about some friend of a friend of a friend of a friend's uncle who died of the vaccine or whatever, and they shared that, and they're like, now I know a person. Again, like the fact that this is a political party and these are real people really does make me want to die. Like the fact that this is what we're dealing with right here, you know. Like he might as well have said, like, raise your hand if you've ever personally heard the voice of God in your head. Raise your hand if you have ever, you know, if you have ever seen an evil demon possess somebody in public. I mean, just everyone. Wow, everyone raised their hand. That's crazy.
Step further. Let's say, raise your hand if you beyond any reasonable, beyond reasonable doubt, you believe the vaccine contributed to the death of somebody that you know. Raise.
Now, what do you think the answer is going to be, guys? What do you think it's going to be? Wow, every one of you. Wow, that's crazy. Every single one of you.
Your hand.
Beyond a reasonable doubt. I mean, legal...
Look around the room. 2 people. We're not even allowed to talk about this. Are you kidding me?
Oh, just 2 people? Wait, only 2? Wait, turn the camera around. Hold on. Turn the camera around. Are they being honest over there? Turn the camera around. Show me 2 liars in the audience.
Governor, what's going on here? You just saw thousands of hands get raised, and I was very careful with how I asked the question, right? And let's pretend half of the people here are wrong. Is this a scandal? Wow. I mean, it's beyond anything we've ever lived through in our life, and we're not even allowed to talk about it.
Right, and that's the scary thing.
Wait, did a lot of people raise their hand? The way they're talking makes it sound like a lot of people raised their hand, but then they said 2 people. Wait, how many people raised their hand?
Is you know, well, it really is the thought police that are trying to crack down. When we're not allowed to talk about something, you know what that leads to?
You're talking about it right
now. Don't want us to talk about something. Ultimately, they don't want us to think about something, and it is a thought police type issue. Because
you
when
never
you are
shut up
afraid
about
to
it.
speak
You're
the truth,
always talking about it.
Well, they got you then, and then you're afraid to actually think that truth. Then they really got you, and that's how they control people. Okay, so you can't be afraid to talk about it. You can't be afraid to talk about the inconsistencies. This is such a joke. The inconsistencies and the you know, it's been one thing after another, and you need to ask yourselves too, how did we get to this point?
My personal theory is that it really was just 2 people in the audience who raised their hand, and the reason they're talking like this and the reason Charlie Kirk sounded so incredulous is because they expected far more, and they're panicking and they're pivoting now to the nobody will let us talk about this except for right now when all of us politicians and major pundits are talking about it openly with nobody stopping us from doing so because there are no laws against talking about it.
You know, when one law or one mandate or some accepted protocol comes down the pike and we accept it, we're tolerant of it, but then it gets worse and worse and worse. I need to know, what is the catalyst? What's the catalyst where enough people are going to be able to really capture this issue and you know, join with me and others saying enough is enough? There's got to be something that happens that will really awaken people.
Well, I mean, I grew up being lectured by these really angry people screaming at me saying, my body, my choice.
Right.
And which, by the way, life begins at conception and every life is deserving of protection.
There we go. Thank you.
And it's one of the most important fights of our generation to end abortion in our lifetime. I hope the media writes that in every single article. To end abortion in our lifetime and stop the slaughter of 1 million children every single year in America.
Why would they do that?
And
that's why I love you guys. You guys get it. You understand this. And oh my gosh, it's
close
just so
your legs,
empowering.
ladies. Yeah, they don't give a
only
fuck
talk
about
tax cuts. Like, yeah, no, when we have a million abortions every single year, I'm going to keep on talking about that. And I pray and I hope the U.S. Supreme Court repeals Roe versus Wade this coming summer.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like it's now or never, Charlie, with that issue. I mean, we have the opportunity finally. And, yeah, you know, back to the virus, though. It's not about a virus. It is about control. This is about government controlling the people. And look how easily they kind of herded us together, right? As we're kind of a bunch of sheep for a while there. People just trusting what Fauci and others were telling us. And, no, I think they've just taken it too far. You know, if they were serious about...
Wow, now it actually does look to me like the last bit fizzled. They need to get the audience back on their side. Yeah, that's why the abortion thing came out of absolutely fucking nowhere, you know. It's because, again, conservatives are subhuman. They are absolute children. You know, the people in that audience, they might as well need, like, applause signs, okay? They get lost a little bit, too many words strung together that they don't really get. Okay, Charlie mentions abortion. They start cheering again. They remember, we watched the first day of the TPUSA event, Charlie Kirk, when talking, would just effortlessly pivot between talking points with no relationship to each other in an effort to keep the audience, you know, loud. But there wasn't really a through line. It was completely all over the place. Because ultimately, that's all conservatives really want, okay? They don't need strong, consistent messaging or like a plan to make their life better or whatever else, okay? The only thing that they need is, you know... Honestly, all I can really think of is that Trump speech where he said woke is dumb, and that got more applause than anything else he said. Right? I mean, remember that? Everything else he said just fell to milquetoast applause, and then he dropped the woke equals poop, and people lost their fucking minds.
Eradicating a virus, and there are more viruses on Earth than there are stars in the sky. We're never going to eradicate viruses. But if they were serious about this, our borders would be closed, and those crossing the borders, they'd be tested. That's evidence of what a joke this is.
Yes, and it's about actually criminalizing American citizens. Meanwhile, the 2 million people that are illegally entering into our country, they could do whatever they want.
Good.
So I want to ask you, Governor, there's another issue that I think
I hope they commit crimes. That's how pro-immigration I am. I think people who immigrate illegally to the United States should commit 1 crime a year. Minimum, okay? 1 crime a year, all right? Nothing too serious. You know, we're not talking rape, murder, robbery, burglary, you know? But like more you know, like throw a brick at a car. 1 a year, you know. Pee off of a rooftop, just something like that, you know, even it out. Yeah, get a free candy bar, 1 free crime, you know. That's what I want.
Important that we're not supposed to talk about, that is kind of around this theme that you and I have been kind of going back and forth which is the problem with tolerance. Now, I want you to, you're not allowed to say this out loud, which is exactly why I want to say this. Because you see all these ridiculous bumper stickers as if tolerance is the most important value.
Yeah, but you won't tolerate, you claim to be tolerant, but you won't even tolerate me saying the N-word at black people. You're not tolerant, you're a hypocrite. You should be tolerant of me saying the N-word at black people.
No, we shouldn't tolerate evil things. For example, we shouldn't tolerate...
Oh, wait, hold on. Charlie. I agree. But you're cracking the ice under your own feet right now.
Great men in women's sports, like...
Bring the audience back. Let's talk about the greatest evils afflicting America right now. We got income inequality, war, disease, terror. Let's talk about trans women in sports. Let's really get people where they're affected personally, you know. Let's absolutely run it through, Charlie. Hit it up. Talk about the great evil you're preventing.
Why is this even a question?
I don't know. Why do we keep talking about it, Charlie? I am exceedingly curious. I am actually incredibly confused as to why we keep talking about it, in spite of this literally not mattering.
Right? And so, tolerance and apathy are attributes of a dying society. And tolerance...
Well, that's a little bit Hitlery. Tolerance is endemic of a dying society. That's a little Hitlery, you know. That's a little bit not Nazi-esque, in my humble opinion, personally, a little bit.
Has been weakness for the American project
the
last 20 years. Now, what people mean by tolerance is they mean don't be mean to others. Like, okay, I obviously believe that. I think that we should be Christ-like, but Christ was 100% grace on 100% truth, and this idea that we should be okay with the destruction of how God made man and God made woman, like we shouldn't put up with this. And you have this person who I believe needs counseling and needs compassion and needs a pastor to guide him to kind of biological reality.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, how do you think it feels to be a Christian and to just watch everything you care about be destroyed? Like, how do you think it feels to be Charlie Kirk and know that you've lost the culture war? The culture war has been so thoroughly lost by conservatives that in essentially any medium, whether it be film, television shows, music, whatever, if you're even remotely bigoted against trans people, it's going to be a major issue for your publication, you know? Like, the bigotry, casual bigotry that would have been acceptable just 20 years ago is massively unacceptable today. They have lost. God is dead. Everything they cared about is burning to the ground. I wonder how that feels, you know? Like, they're taking so many L's day after day. Just the L's keep rolling up. Like, every day they wake up, people are more accepting of trans people, you know? Psychiatry and biologists, they've moved forward with this, that, or the other. You know, the world is getting better and they're just seething, you know? Sarah Palin said earlier, you know, eventually enough is enough. Something's got to wake us up. They've been saying that for a century, you know? Somebody's got to wake up about the dangers of desegregation. Somebody's got to wake up about gay rights. Somebody's got to wake up about gay marriage. Somebody's got to this, that, and the other. And it never happens. Because you guys are already awake. You're just smaller and weaker than us, you know? You are awake. It's not a silent majority. You're an incredibly loud minority. And you're losing day after day.
who is basically destroying women swimming from the University of Pennsylvania. I don't know if you guys saw the story or not. This man who has some deep-seated mental problems, obviously, and no, I mean, I don't say that as a joke, by the way. I really hope he gets treatment. But, like, don't have your mental problems destroy women's sports for other people that don't have the same testosterone levels that you have.
What do they say? Pennsylvania? Penn State swimming trans. Editor of Swimming World says transgender swimmer Leah Thomas has advantage over competitors. I haven't looked at this. Here's a New York Post article, the hallmark of good journalism on trans issues. A teammate of Leah Thomas says
now was on a transgender swimmer.
Shut up! Has spoken out as the trans swimmer has shattered school records. Let me see. Before her transition, Thomas competed at Penn for 3 years as a male. He recently set school records in the 200-meter freestyle and the 500-meter freestyle in November. This past weekend, the record-breaking stretch continued as Thomas set a school record in the 1,650-meter freestyle. She seems very talented. Her teammate, Anna Kaladidenzi, finished in second place, over 38 seconds behind Thomas. Holy shit. 38-second lead. My fucking god. I don't know. It seems like the issue here is just if you're going to have trans athletes, they should probably be on hormones for like 2 years. I've said it before, estrogen annihilates your body, you know, it just tears you apart, obliterates. You know, if you do that, it should be fine. She was on HRT for at least a year. Maybe it could be more. I don't really care. See, here's the problem, Chad, okay? The issue is that I live in reality. And over here in reality, this doesn't fucking matter. Seriously. Holy shit. That's my based and red-pilled opinion on transit sports. Why the fuck I could throw darts at a board and find a trillion more consequential subjects than this, you know? The only reason people give a fuck about this is because it's a way to shit on trans people. When the fuck have conservatives ever cared about fairness in women's sports? When was that ever even an issue? They don't care. Nobody cares. Nobody gave a shit about this until they wanted to make it a cultural issue. So I will adopt, you know, I will return to tradition, you know. I'll take the old perspective on this and not give a fuck.
And that's the worst thing you could possibly do. And so, Governor, how do we save women's sports?
Yeah,
that's something they
really
care
important
about.
To me also. By the way, sports are, and healthy competition, I mean, that's just a foundation of mine. And in fact, I started my career as a sportscaster, and that's what I wanted to do, was report on not just women's sports, but men's sports. So to me, it's tragic what's going on. And doesn't it make you wonder who is okaying this stuff? Because normal people don't want to see that. Normal people would not. If you just ask man on the street, is it okay for that guy, that swimmer, you know, taking over the women's swim team and, of course, smashing all the records?
He's winning by like 47 seconds. It's enough to take a
It
nap,
was
get a beer,
38,
and like,
don't lie.
go for a walk. I mean, in swimming, that's an eternity.
Right. So, I mean, I don't even have to ask in this crowd, right? How many of you think it's okay? Does anybody think
Not in this room.
I do. In fact, I would happily enter women's athletic competitions as a cis man and crush them. As an unathletic guy, I'm sure I could find at least a couple things that with a few months training, I could just obliterate the women's records easily, you know? By the way, I'll break age records too. Send me to middle school volleyball. Is that a thing? Something, okay? Put me up against high schoolers. I'll kill them. They'll be destroyed instantly. I will pulverize them, you know? What's an easy one? Soccer? Elementary school soccer, okay? These bitches can barely fucking walk without falling over, okay? I will annihilate them. I will fucking dead zone the ball from the other side of the field and leave soccer ball shaped holes in all of the kids on the way, you know? It'll be like a fucking anime move, okay? Do basketball? Do they, for like elementary school, middle school, whatever, they have like lower baskets, right? I will walk over to the basket and simply drop the ball in. Then I will catch it with my other hand and cycle feed it, you know. The kids will be crying on the field. I don't care. And then I will fight all of their families, because of course their families would be quite angry. I don't care. The rules don't allow for that. Then I'll fight the referee. The referee's a kid too, right? If it's like kids basketball, or like, I'll fight them. What are they going to do? Beat me?
is this crowd either. It is normal people. They don't think that it's okay. So it's just that minuscule percentage of people who happen to be kind of the self-proclaimed movers and shakers. They're the ones making these decisions. But I go back again to there are more of us than there are of them.
Nah.
So why do we tolerate things like this? And we get the government that we tolerate. So I am going to keep going back to saying, okay, what's it going to take, you guys? What is it going to take? What's that catalyst where enough people are going to say, this is out of control? So many things going on in our country. It's just crazy town what's going on. And it's so many un-American things happening. And yeah, you know, we talk about it amongst ourselves. I am such a proponent of getting out there in pop culture, though, infiltrating and influencing pop culture, because everything is downstream from pop culture.
And
Instead
they've
of just
lost.
preaching, you know, to the choir and within the four square walls of a church or anything else. We need to get out there. We need to tell those movers and shakers that we won't just sit back. We won't just take this, because if we do, you guys, they win in their drive to fundamentally transform America, transforming us into something that is not going to be recognizable to you who love America. So, you know, we can banter about it and talk about it ourselves, but we got to get out there. And that's where the criticism comes in too. When you're willing to get out there, especially in pop culture, and affect change, yeah, you're going to be criticized, but you guys, it's worth it. And we need you too. We need the young people in this country to just be so passionate about it.
Well, and it's such an important...
Keep in mind, TPUSA's main goal is to try to bring over, like, conservative kids or whatever. The issue is that, like, the rural-urban divide has kicked up massively, you know. Almost every major city in the United States is overwhelmingly Democrat, and that's for a number of reasons, you know, higher average level of education, more racial diversity, stuff like that. The problem is, like, listen, no hate to the rural folks, but you fucks don't make TV shows. TV shows are complicated. You got to make them in cities, buddy. The issue is, like, pretty much the media production and basically all high-end cultural artifacts are gatekept behind urban civic participation. TV shows, movies, music, video games overwhelmingly are made by disproportionately progressive people, you know? This is like an insurmountable, like, problem for conservatives. Now, I'm not saying this is some, like, historical inevitability. It's always possible there will be backlash, people's minds might change, but I don't really see it happening, you know? Like, nowadays, even, like, if you follow the indie game scene, you see this from time to time. Nowadays, indie games, if they have even slightly problematic stuff in them, will get, like, significant backlash. I mean, I remember there was an indie game that was hyped up a bit, but then there was some transphobic stuff, and I'm forgetting a lot of details here. I don't really remember, but there was something people thought it was fairly objectionable. It wasn't some little thing. I think it was worth really criticizing. Was it Ion Fury? It was something. It was something. This happens from time to time, but people got really mad, and stuff changes too. And another big part of this is that artists are overwhelmingly left-leaning. Not always, but generally. And that's because good art requires forethought, introspection, and a lot of other characteristics conservatism explicitly... Empathy, yeah. Empathy for the human experience, you know? Being a good artist means being able to understand how other people feel about things. I mean, fundamentally, you know, you can be a good artist and not understand that, but I do think there's a component of empathy in much good art, especially like mass media produced art, you know, not just like a painting done by some highfalutin professional, but something that's meant to be consumed by hundreds of thousands or millions of people. You need to be willing to engage with people as they are. And that, again, conservatism is just not... You can look at this back through the ages, too. Artists have always been relatively progressive. They were subversive and progressive 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 150, 200 years ago. Always has the art world been, at least in part, the zenith of progressive thought, which is one of the reasons why historically conservative or fascist regimes have always cracked down on artistic degeneracy. You know, they want to censor the art.
Point. So for years we were told that, well, how does it impact you if a man thinks he's a woman or a woman thinks he's a man? This is the lie of American liberalism, as if it's going to stop corroding everything that we love. As if, like, oh yeah, we're just going to kind of allow people to go in whatever restroom they go in. Oh, now we don't have women's sports. By the way, at the pace we're going, we will tell our kids there used to be a thing called women's sports, just so we're clear. That is the pace that we are going. And so,
I notice how he's not making an argument for anything being made worse. He's just sort of complaining about a fake reality. What are the arguments?
Part of it is that people are afraid of the names they're going to be called. They're afraid that they're going to be called transphobic, whatever that is, right?
Charlie, you're not stupid. You know what it means.
Like, actually, putting that aside, I do have a deep fear that the next generation is not going to respect biological and God-given differences between men and women. We should all be
he is afraid. Guys, you've got him on the ropes.
Afraid of that. In fact, we should be terrified of that. And what this ends up creating in a lot of different ways is the most confused and miserable generation in American history, raised by a politically correct regime that has been afraid to tell people things that are biologically and metaphysically true.
Metaphysically true. Do tell us, Charlie, how you have arrived at metaphysical truth. I would love to know how you've solved philosophy and arrived at a metaphysical truth. That is extremely interesting to me. It's of course, well, for him it's God, of course. You know, that's the thing he's referring to.
Because for whatever reason, they might have someone angrily comment on their Instagram post or their Facebook post. And you said it perfectly, Governor. We get the government that we tolerate. And we've kind of had this idea that we can kind of just sit idly by and like, oh yeah, I might not agree with that, but as long as it doesn't impact me. Well, it's impacting all of you now. Is that same sort of like, well, it doesn't mean anything if they go into a restroom. Let me tell you a real story, and I'd love to get your comments on this, Governor. Like, what's the big deal with transgender bathrooms? How about you go to Loudoun County, Virginia?
What?
Where you go look that father in the eye that got arrested at a school board meeting, try to complain about transgender bathrooms. They arrested him for doing that. Why was he there to complain? He was there to complain because his daughter got raped in the bathroom by a man who thought he was a woman.
Oh, we covered this. He's lying right now. Isn't this the story that we talked about? This is the lie. So the daughter was raped before the school had any trans bathroom policy at all. The two are completely unrelated. And was it even at school? There was another incident. I think it was 2 rapes. One of them wasn't even at school. Like, there's literally no relationship between the two. I hope that dad gets double arrested. You know, sucks for the family, and, you know, on a shame, like the daughter. I mean, the guy who raped her can go to hell or whatever. But it's nothing to do with trans issues. No relationship. He's just lying right now. You're under double arrest. Yeah, man, it's got to be rough to be a conservative here. Was the rapist even trans? I don't even know if that was even determined. It's got to be rough here. More than 6 in 10 Americans say they become more supportive towards trans rights compared to their views 5 years ago. By contrast, only a quarter say their views are more opposed compared to 5 years ago. About 3/4 of Democrats report they become more supportive of trans rights in the last 5 years, compared to 64% of independents, and hey, this is critical, only 47% of Republicans. Nearly half of Republicans have still said they're more supportive of trans rights in the past 5 years. This was done in 2019, so it's not perfectly up to date, but representative, you know. Notably, increased support crosses ideological divides within the party. Conservative Republicans, 40%, stand out as the only ideological group with less than half reporting increased support for trans rights. Self-reported change by party and religious affiliation. So here we have all Americans, you know, and then within the Republican Party, moderate and liberal Republicans are actually more supportive than the average American. So, and then conservative Republicans are basically split 50-50, you know. With the independents, both the conservative and moderate or liberal independents are quite favorable towards trans people proportionally. And then, of course, for, you know, Democrats, you have the expected values here. Even if you're looking at white evangelical Protestants, there's still a huge ratio in favor of more supportive rather than less supportive with time. Unaffiliated, a huge, group. Although majorities of every age group increased support for trans rights over the last 5 years, young Americans, 68%, are more likely than seniors, ages 65 and older, 56%. Even boomers, 65 years old and older, 56% more likely. That is incredible. Really, that is incredible. That is extraordinary stuff. Majorities of every single major religious group. Military service, let me see. Support for trans people in the military by party affiliation. which is funnily enough normalized between 2017 and 2019. Keep in mind, Trump was in office when this was done. So the trans people were still banned from the military. Democrats were 83% in favor of trans people in the military to 78%, a 5% drop, interestingly. Independents and all Americans essentially stayed the same, but weirdly, over the course of Trump's presidency, Republicans, 10% more of them supported trans people in the military, even though Trump was in office and it was a ban he enacted that was still in effect at this time. That's interesting. I don't know why that would be, to be honest with you. Broad support across demographic groups for trans service in the military. More than 6 in 10 non-white, 68% of non-white people, and 61% of white people favor trans service in the military. 2 in 3 women and 59% of men, and so on. Bathroom accommodations. Over the past few years, several so-called bathroom bills have appeared in state legislators. Americans are divided over this, so this is a bit more contentious here. So we'll see here differences between the two times. Percent who favor or oppose laws that require trans individuals that use bathrooms that correspond to their sex at birth rather than their current gender identity. So in this case, what we see here is polarization. Between 2017 and 2019, a greater number of people either favor it. The total number of people who are favorable to such a law has increased. The total number of people who are opposed to it has increased as well, but not by as much. And the number who don't know has decreased by about 1/3. So about split on that, I would say. How comfortable are Americans with trans people? A majority of Americans say they would be somewhat or very comfortable having a close friend tell them they're trans. That's nice. Over half of Americans report they would feel somewhat or very comfortable learning a local elementary school teacher is trans. I think that's also quite nice. Over half, I mean, you know, people tend to be a bit more reactionary when it comes to like trans people teaching their kids or whatever. Less than half would feel somewhat or very comfortable with having their own child tell them they're transgender, which I guess is to be expected. That would be the lower metric. Do we have a change over time, 2017 to 2019? I don't see a change over time here, just the relative proportions. With Republicans, of course, being the lowest group here and Democrats being the highest, unsurprisingly, you know. Having a trans friend, 52% of Republicans, 73% of Democrats say they'd be comfortable, very comfortable, having a close friend tell them they're trans. Women are more comfortable than men, so on and so forth. Trans teacher, having a trans child, trans stigma. Perception of stigma faced by LGBT people by party affiliation. So percent who say the following group faces a lot of stigma or negative social judgment in their community. So it's actually fairly even across the board, with Republicans reporting the lowest, probably because they're the least perceptive of negative social stigma. But interestingly, Democrats and Republicans seem basically on par here. So yeah, that's mostly a perceptive thing, I think. Belief about gender identity by political affiliation. Do you think there are only 2 possible gender identities, or is there a range of many possible gender identities? And if you take, you know, all Americans, the majority think there are only 2 genders, and then, you know, over here you have the range of genders. In Democrats, of course, you have, you know, more this, and then Republicans, you have more that. Though interestingly, 24% of Republicans thinking there's a range of genders is more than I would have expected, you know. Bathroom bills, so on and so forth, gender identity, relationship, trans people, so on. It's a lot of data here, but the point that I'm trying to get at here is that in terms of civil rights and social acclamation, everything regarding trans people right now is quite positive. Really, it is, you know. I know trans people get a lot of rough treatment. I'm not denying that. I know that, you know, things aren't easy or whatever, but as civil rights struggles go, I think that the trans rights struggle in the United States is notable for how significant the rise in positive attention has been, how much you know, work has been done in so short a time. So that's good.
And then they sent the young man to another school where he raped again. what we are experiencing, what's the takeaway of this?
So it had nothing to do with trans people, that rapist. Nothing. There was no relationship between trans bathroom bills and the rapist. Absolutely nothing.
Is that if we don't draw definitive lines of what is good and what is evil, what is right and what is wrong, then the whole society really starts to fall apart. But it comes down to this. It's impossible under the current regime to do that without being called bad names.
But I think we know rape
to do
is
that
wrong.
without getting some hate. But guess what? That matters a lot more than whether or not you're going to get a bunch of Instagram likes or that people are going to think really highly of you. And so, Governor, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah. Well, I just love where you're going there with this encouragement for people to, you know, regardless of what you're going to be called, again, taking that strong position. And it's just common sense anyway, man. It's not that difficult to, you know, to take a stand on something like, you know, how God created us, and DNA is not going to change just because you're going to dress the opposite sex, or, you know.
And of course, nobody's talking about changing DNA, but
scar yourself up or something. No, your DNA is your DNA. You know what this comes down to, too, is bigger picture. A healthy fear of God that I think is lacking in our society. And I think that gets the whole idea of fearing God gets a bum rap, because I think too many are conditioned to believe that that means that we need to be frightened of God. And
well, that is kind of what that means, isn't it? That is a little bit, you know, fearing God has gotten a bad rap because people are interpreting that saying as that you should fear God. Well, yeah, that is sort of what you're saying.
And assume that his plans for us and the purposes that he's created within us aren't good. We need to individually change that mindset and understand how good God is, and
God is
that
cringe.
his plans for us are so good. And we need a healthy fear of God. And that's why when you have that within you, then you're not going to mess with his plans, with his creation, with his perfection.
So what? We shouldn't have laser eye surgery? You shouldn't wear glasses? You shouldn't wear shoes with orthopedic pads inside to keep your feet from hurting? What is that? Again, like, this is literally like, this is the people use the same shit against tattoos back in the day, or piercings. It's the same shit. It's we don't like this thing, you know. But now they do it. She has piercings. She has multiple piercings across her ears. If she went back 100 years dressed like this, wearing jewelry like that, she would be called a strumpet. She would. She would be called a strumpet and a godless whore. Absolutely she would. And I guarantee you that people 100 years ago, on average, cared a fuckload more about God than people do today. Yeah, she also got divorced, you know? Like, this means absolutely nothing.
That's what's lacking, generally speaking, in society today. So, you know, those people of faith and people who understand, you know, who have this reverence for God and for his creation, we really need to be bold, and we need to put on a happy face and be happy warriors out there for the faith, letting people know how important it is, how worth it is.
By the way, anybody who gets mad at me for saying Republicans are fascists, and I'm sitting here watching her talk about, like, having to sacrifice to be warriors for God, like, yeah, I feel very comfortable in my designation.
To stand strong on God's word and on his principles, on truth. And really, you guys, how simple it is. It's easy. God doesn't make this really tough. If he made it tough on us, then, you know, I think a whole lot of us would be crumbling and failing and really being lost. But God makes it pretty doggone simple. And if we just follow him, follow his ways, put our lives in his hands. If he is so
I thought he tested
in the
us.
creation that he has provided for us, the natural resources for responsible use and everything else that he's created, all the beauty around us, then, man, if he can do that, these wonders, then think what he can do in our little lives when we just put our lives in his hands. It's amazing where you will go.
What the
where
fuck
he will
are you
send
talking about?
When you're willing to follow him. But I digress.
No, I mean, a nation that forgoes God will crumble, and now that's why you have all these fake pseudo-religions replacing it. That's what the BLM movement was.
I swear to God, dude, I really try not to go full 1984, but when I see religion being used like this, I am like 2 seconds away from a full Stalin-era purge of religious thought, okay? I swear to fucking God. When I see stuff like this, we are this fucking close to, bombing the churches and the synagogues and the mosques and the Scientology whatevers and the everything and you will pray to I don't know, to your Minecraft worlds. You can all pray to Herobrine.
That's what the kind of cult of Greta Thunberg was or is. And by the way, I feel bad for her. They're using her. They are. She's a victim in this. To use children for a political purpose is really wrong and disgusting. But it gives people purpose, right? When you remove a belief in a transcendent being or God or an omniscient, omnipotent creator, then you have a God-sized hole in your heart that you're going to try to fill with something else.
So they're projecting here. They're projecting their weakness onto other people. We can't live without a simplistic black and white childlike view of the world. So other people can't live with it as well. You know, other people are suffering.
To try, and these are all different manifestations of that. And this is exactly why they almost have religious kind of commitment to Anthony Fauci.
Dr. Fauci! One God, two God! Long live Fauci.
Because they have really no other kind of moral kind of position on that. And so I want to ask you, Governor, talk a little bit deeper about the Christian aspect of this. Do you believe there's a spiritual dimension to all of this?
Oh, I think spiritual warfare is raging in our country.
No doubt.
We need to really be aware of that. We need to recognize exactly, as Charlie is saying, that the issues that we're facing today and the different personalities who are speaking to the issues, there's a lot of foundational spiritual warfare that's going on. And, you know, it comes down to good versus evil. I mean, and this is since the beginning of time, right? And the manifestations, as you're suggesting too, that we see today, things that we've been talking about, these specific issues we've been talking about, they are manifestations of the good versus evil and our God-given rights, our right to freedom. If that's going to be...
Will you all join me in a prayer? To our epidemiologist, Dr. Fauci, who art in the CDC, hallowed be thy name. Thy vaccine come. Thy will be done in America as it is in the WHO. Give us this day our daily vaccine dose, and forgive us our lack of social distancing, as we forgive those who fail to social distance around us. Lead us not into abandoning thy masks, but deliver us from sickness. Amen.
Be taken away or not. Who do you think controls that? God doesn't want us to have a less and less freedom. He wants us to be responsible human beings, voluntarily looking out for one another, not government telling us where we should be, you know, providing aid and help, but voluntarily we making sure that our fellow man is taken care of. It comes down to you know, darkness and lightness and good versus evil, and obviously.
Darkness and lightness. That
is a driving force in curriculum in schools and public schools, and I'm a product of public schools.
Dude, I was way too hard on Joe Biden, man. With the exception of Charlie Kirk, everyone we've seen at the AmericaFest so far has been significantly less coherent than Joe Biden. Unironically, like, we make fun of him, but I genuinely think that if you put him in this lineup, he would be in the 90th percentile of charisma and of, you know, ability to coherently deliver information.
Schools, my kids have gone to public schools, my parents, public school teachers, I'm rah public schools. But you know what the curriculum there is all about. Ultimately, it is about less and less freedom.
Oh God, and a fucking Obabo, dude. Can you believe so, like, you know, hate him if you will, and you should, but like Obabo, it was like the most charismatic human. Like, he was so charismatic. It's almost insane. If you go back and watch Obama talk, and you know, don't be fooled by his serpent's tongue. Okay, he's still the devil, but he was so much Here's him at the 2020 DNC. Just he's so much more charismatic.
Humanity of slavery.
Oh my God, he thinks slavery was humanity?
Drafted. I'm in Philadelphia, where our Constitution was drafted and signed. It wasn't a perfect document. It allowed for the inhumanity of slavery and failed to guarantee women, and even men who didn't own property, the right to participate in the political process. But embedded in this document was a North Star that would guide future generations.
Like, again, serpent's tongue and everything. But yeah, his ability to speak is just head and shoulders above, like, anyone currently politically active, you know. Pete Buttigieg tries, but...
For the individual. And again, where do you think that comes from? That's not a God thing.
Yeah, and it's important to clarify what we mean by freedom. And so one of the great lies of modern America is that freedom is being able to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. That is not freedom. It is not freedom to have a 9-year-old chemically castrate the way God made them.
I don't think 9-year-olds are being chemically castrated, Charlie.
It's not freedom to have 12-year-olds doing marijuana recreationally. That's not...
Okay, Charlie, that's not legal anywhere in the United States. What are you talking about? It's not freedom to have marauding gangs of infant babies wielding old-timey Tommy guns, robbing people at pickup stations. What are you talking about?
Not freedom. In fact, that's the opposite of freedom. Liberty, or freedom as the Founding Fathers understood it in the classical sense, which we need to renew as conservatives, is the pursuit of virtue.
Absolutely not. Zero, absolutely not, you fucking theocrat, okay? Absolutely not. Nobody in the Founding Fathers were inspired by the Enlightenment thinkers, okay? Freedom is not about the pursuit of virtue. That's the reason there was the whole fucking argument between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists talking about the extent to which the state's powers should be outlined at a federal level. It was not about the pursuit of virtue. It was about the pursuit of happiness, which, if that leads to 12-year-olds token up, God be with them. Thomas Jefferson would be shedding tears of joy.
How you ought to live. Freedom and liberty means to go and live in the way that is meaningful and deep and is beautiful. And that's a complete difference.
No, it's life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, not virtue. Okay, this is just dishonest. This is categorically, objectively incorrect. No honest scholar of the Founding Fathers or of the America's Foundation would say, and by the way, even if it was, fuck them. You know, I don't live my life because some ancient fucking white boys buried somewhere, you know, tell me how to live. Yeah, just the idea that freedom is virtue, no, just no.
Where some people say, yeah, you know, we just want to have people to do whatever they want to do, however they want to do it. Now,
remember when I was talking about him, or talking about this with him, and I was like, yeah, I think freedom should be about, you know, doing whatever you want as long as you're not hurting other people. And he was like, well, what about pedophilia? And I was like, well, that would be hurting people, so no. And he's like, so ha! See, you do need rules. Remember that? That's verbatim from our conversation. In fact, does anyone have a timestamp? I need to use the restroom real quick. If you can find a timestamp from the conversation that I had with him, I would really, really, really like to show that. If you can find that timestamp, please. There we go. All right, did anyone procure the timestamp, or have you all disappointed me yet again? I don't see a timestamp. Well. This? Let me see. Was it this? Oh, did I cover it in my own video review? Really?
People graduate by the time of high school to be skeptical, apprehensive, and not very proud of the country.
No, this is this right here. This is about schools teaching you to be thankful, you know. Okay, I'll check this link. Let's see.
Greatest society.
I say that. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just the greatest society is one where a man is born, and there are as few things as possible preventing him from doing what.
I have lost so much weight even since this. Jesus Christ.
Whatever he wants for the rest of his life.
I totally disagree.
So long as, of course, he doesn't deprive others of the ability to do the same.
So I think that's a miserable society.
Freedom?
No, that's not freedom. That's licentiousness or degeneracy. That's chaos.
What is degeneracy? I like men.
How about pedophilia?
Okay, well, obviously
you said
that
whatever he wants. Is pedophilia a freedom vouch?
As long as they don't infringe on the rights of others, I'm sure you could believe. I would believe.
Well, so there are limits on freedom, is what you're saying. It's not this.
Literally. I wasn't exaggerating. I was like, yeah, you know, freedom is doing whatever you want as long as you don't hurt other people. And he's like, well, what if you hurt other people? What about that, huh? You know, like.
Wild West campaign.
Yeah,
so where do you get those limits from?
Well, obviously, you would probably have to have a pretty complex interlocking legal system to determine what we agree upon as like a reasonable limits we can place on people's behavior. We have that now to an extent.
No, I know. So like pedophilia, bad.
That would be a bad thing.
Okay, kidnapping.
That would be a bad thing.
Rape.
That would be a bad thing.
Why do you think those things are bad?
I think they're bad because you're stripping other people of the ability to do that which they will. With all those examples, you're inflicting harm on a person.
How about dealing drugs?
I think that dealing drugs is a person's freedom, as is taking a person's.
What about dealing drugs to kids?
Dealing drugs to kids? I think I would disagree with that, probably because I think there's something exceptional about addictive substances and children. That being said, I think a lot of stuff would apply to children, specifically contract law. Kids can't sign contracts.
So do you see what I'm getting at? Eventually, you do agree that a conservative framework is necessary.
But I don't think that's a conservative framework, because there are other things I care about that you would always disagree with, like collective ownership of the means of production.
Yeah, I totally disagree. I think private property and freedom are linked together.
Which would give workers the most freedom possible.
We've definitely gone along. A libertarian.
Yeah. It's a whole. It's a whole.
That you didn't see there, where Charlie Kirk basically says, oh, actually, you may have seen it at the very beginning, where Charlie says, I want to appeal to the good or the common good.
Yeah, it goes. Yeah, I did, you know, off stream. I saw Kyle Klinsky's segment on it. He doesn't listen to what you're saying. Well, actually, I think Charlie was really civil with that convo, because at the beginning of that convo, he was trying to get gotchas on me, but later on, it settled down a little bit. I did miss that though. Oh, I like those are the good debates. You know, I walk away from those ones feeling good. You know.
I obviously don't think we should be regulating, like, I don't know how big your Slurpees are from 7-Eleven. Like, I think that's kind of silly, obviously. But I think that.
But what if the Slurpee is so big that it hurts people?
This kind of idea that we need to be like, well, we just have to let people do whatever they want to do. Okay, well, in Oregon, taxpayer-funded minors are allowed to get gender transition surgery without the consent of their parents.
Cool. As long as the doctors vouch for it, yeah. I mean, I assume they can't just walk into a clinic. Like, there's probably a psychiatric, you know, consult. Can I see that law? What is that? It said Oregon? When he said minors, I thought for a second he meant, like, you know, minors. Oregon. Would it be child transition law, parental consent? Here we go. Gender reassignment surgery is now available to Oregon minors without parental consent. Well, that's very direct. Let's see. The topic of gender is much discussed lately. Oh, this is from 2015. Wow, this is they really got on that quickly, didn't they? Let's see. The age of medical consent in Oregon is 15, but how far that consent goes is relative to the topic. At 15, teens in Oregon are able to, without their parents' consent, have sex, receive birth control, take a pregnancy test, and get an abortion. Oh, so this is just because they have a lower age of medical consent. So this is just putting gender transition in line with their existing law. Okay, so that seems fine, you know. New law is controversial. Let's see. 15-year-olds are unable to smoke cigarettes or marijuana, drive alone, send or receive texts, vote, work more than 18 hours a week, drink, eat unhealthy foods at school, get tattoos, administer aspirin at school, or use a tanning bed. You know, laws are going to vary a bit. The sheet also states that although they are able to, at the time of the fact sheet's publishing, 0 teens and only 10 adults under the Oregon Health Plan have undergone sex reassignment surgery. Wow. So yeah, he used the term minors instead of teenagers in order to fearmonger, and he also didn't include the fact that this is just in line with their general medical consent, like, age. So yeah.
So are we supposed to kind of sit idly by and say, oh, well, people are allowed to do whatever they want to do? I'll give you another example.
Sure.
You have teachers.
Please, yes. That would be nice. Yes, actually, if you could just chill and let people do what they want without, as long as they're not hurting people. Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
That are now recruiting students into transgender lifestyles in California. Are we supposed to just kind of sit idly by and say,
soldiers.
well, we can allow people to do whatever we want to do? If we don't...
I like the specificity there. Recruiting students into transgender lifestyles. Yes, I'm sure that's a very real thing that's happening. What are we talking about?
Protect those that can't protect themselves, including children, then what good is the conservative movement, everybody? We're like, oh, we're going to sit idly by. Who are we to say, like, no, we're not going to put up with that?
They said the same thing about gay people
it's important to
back in
recognize
the day.
that, and everyone here knows this is true. And again, this is not a message that every young person wants to hear, but I really don't care, which is the least free people in the world are people that are addicted to either substances or things they can't get off of. They do whatever they want to do whenever they want to do it, and they wish they...
What? I think the least free people would be like slaves, maybe, or something like that, probably, you know? Prisoners? I don't know. What they're doing right now is what Charlie Kirk is doing is, and this is a very common authoritarian line, they're defining freedom as virtue because it means they can take away your real freedoms while promising you an adherence to virtue. Fascists have done this historically, like, very much. So them, for example, using the surveillance state or cracking down on your civil rights, that's not them reducing your freedom. In fact, they're increasing your freedom by diverting you away from licentious or degenerate behavior. So, you know, in reality, this is a way of sort of semantically redefining. This is literally work will set you free. Over Auschwitz-Birkenau, work will set you free. That is the logic that they used. Essentially that, you know, service to the state, which is virtuous in the Nazi mindset, is freedom. And that, you know, the meaningful reduction of your freedoms, you know, the enslavement, the imprisonment, the concentration camps, that's just you know, that's a circumstantial. If anything, you're being helped. And don't conservatives use that logic all the time? In fact, I remember, and we saw this, when the Taliban took over Afghanistan, they rounded up the opium addicts and they put them in these hellish, like, torture prison cells to try to get them sober again. And there were conservatives defending this, saying that all the torture and arrest and unfair treatment and whatever in the world, you know, it's fine because it's in the service of virtue, which is to get them off the drugs. So everything to that end is worthwhile, you know. It is a deeply fascistic way of looking at the world. So, you know, I stand by my assessment.
It could stop. That freedom is actually the ability to navigate things that might make you feel good in an instant, delay gratification, delay your flesh, and go towards a higher plane of existence. And I think we need to articulate that as conservatives.
That's really, really good. That's good. And, you know, are we not so blessed that our founding fathers recognized exactly that? And that's what our charters of liberty are all about, is, that freedom. And the way that Charlie is able to articulate that definition of true freedom, how they encapsulated that. They codified that freedom for us. They had such foresight. You know, they were, it's like providential and prophetic even, what they were able to accomplish there in their writings, that set up a structure that, it recognized and embraced and empowered freedom, but at the same time, there was a societal structure there that they did codify for us, so that people wouldn't just do whatever they wanted to do, because ultimately, too many people who would choose to do that would harm one another.
What the fuck are they talking about? Is she talking about laws that prevent murder? What is she talking about? This means nothing. The founding fathers were prophetic in their wisdom to set up a system that would keep people from hurting each other. What, you mean law against murder? What are we talking about?
And no, so they took care of that. So the foresight that they had, the issues that we're talking about today, it's like they predicted that kind of stuff way back.
People murdering each other? What are we talking about? What?
Back when would be happening today. So they took care of it in our Bill of Rights and in our Constitution. And then with amendments henceforth, things have already been taken care of.
Which amendment? What are we talking about? What behavior are you looking to restrict? What do you mean? What
for us if we would just go back to that foundation, those charters, and live them out?
And it's
what element of the charters? This is nothing. This is meaningless.
It's just as applicable today. Why? It's because the Constitution was not written for the times it was written to stand the test of time. And your college professors will never tell you this. Guess what? Human beings don't change. We're the same. Human beings.
Why would a college professor make a totally arbitrary and philosophically indeterminable statement? By the way, this is, again, essentialism, which is a component of fascist logic. An evil person is born evil; they're eternally evil. A person who is, who is good is eternally good.
Beings are equally as sinful and screwed up today as they were in 1791, or they were in 700, or they were in 2500 BC. You're dealing with the same raw.
Well, we had more slaves back then. Wait, Soaked on Left, what point are you trying to make? I've never said that murders don't... Wait, are you arguing... Yeah, people murder less now. Wait, what are we arguing against? Yeah. What? Are you arguing against me or them? The tangential relevance of this. Oh, he's saying people don't change? Oh, right. Well, it's because the surveillance state. Oh, the people aren't the same. Okay, gotcha. I didn't know. I thought... Okay, gotcha. All right. No, human nature is absolutely not essential.
Raw material. Guess what? The left doesn't believe this. This is why they're so into the transgender movement. Because they want to be able to change humanity. This is why they're so into abortion. They want to be able to dominate the natural world at whatever inkling or kind of moment they want. Where we as conservatives...
First of all, yes, I want to dominate and change whatever I want, and I don't care. Second of all, aren't conservatives the ones who justify doing anything and everything they want by saying that God gave man dominion over the earth? I mean, isn't that one of the historical arguments against, like, ecological conservation? You know, the idea that humanity has a right to do whatever they want with the land and the beasts that God left on earth for us? I'm pretty sure I've heard that argument from conservatives, you know. Yeah, Socked on Left. It's almost like people are products of their environment to an extent. I don't know how you would ever get data from the fucking 1200s, but Jesus. Oh, see, it's exponential. 100 out of every 100,000, I assume. 10 out of every 100,000, 1 out of every 100,000. God damn. People used to kill each other all the fucking time back then. Constantly. They did it for fun.
Recognize what Thomas Jefferson wrote, the laws of nature and nature's God. We realize there's a hierarchy, and this is it. Everybody in this room believes this. There is a God, and we are not him.
They're cucks. They're submissives. They're sexually submissive. This is why I hate sexual submissives. This obsession. God is here and we are beneath him. There is nothing above humanity. Nothing, okay? At least Dr. Fauci can work miracles, you know, and bless us with his, booster shot blessing. What else is there? Find me something above me. Strike me down. Give me a bolt of lightning. This shit really brings out the Reddit atheist in me. This obsession with prostrating yourself beneath what? God? What is God doing? What is he doing? Tell me. What is he doing? What's happening? Where? This obsession. The founding fathers also clearly demarked the separation between church and state, but they don't give a fuck about that.
It's that simple. And when you recognize those
Yes,
two things,
we're
all of a sudden,
epistemically
there should be a
inferior.
humility that says,
Yes.
okay, Governor, we have 3 minutes remaining. This session is brought to you by Turning Point Action. So I want to ask you about the upcoming midterms. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think we're in really good shape because we have a lot of non-politicians running for political office, and that's what we need. Yeah, it's refreshing. So I do think that we're in really good shape. I think traditionally, too, I mean, in midterms when you have, well, when you have buffoons running the show on a national level right now.
Aliens are above humans. Listen, the fundamental issue here is that conservatives are obsessed with maintaining a kind of essentialist, epistemically derived hierarchy. Because keep in mind, okay, any thought system in which, you know, humanity is beneath God is a thought system in which you can place degenerates beneath non-degenerates with an epistemic virtue. Anytime virtue is divinely determined, the ability to morally distinguish yourself from people you consider degenerates, it stops being a matter of political differentiation and becomes a matter of existential condemnation. The universalism, the model that religion allows people to invoke is at least with Christianity, essentialist by nature, and it leads to a lot of really bad political programs.
People want anything but that. So, yeah, I think the vote's going to go our way. But, Charlie, oh, my goodness, I could just sit here and listen to you all day. You guys are so lucky that Turning Point USA has the leadership that it has. You blow me away. You are amazing. He's amazing. He's amazing. And, yeah, Turning Point USA is very, very fortunate. So, you suggested, too, about, you know, what goes on our campuses, right, where there's this, you know, a drive to indoctrinate and to, you know, to usher in such a liberal agenda via groups maybe that are accepted on campus and everything. And here, Turning Point USA, you guys are like 3,000 campuses, high school, and you're not allowed, though, to be there recruiting on site, right? Other groups are. They're able to. So what you're able to accomplish even with the number.
Reminder, if you see any TPUSA people at your college campus, okay, you have every right to call them nerds when you walk by, okay? Don't get in big arguments with them. Don't fucking debate them. That's what they want, okay? They want to upload to their Instagram videos of them reciting their talking points with you, okay? Just call them nerds and losers. Pick up their little pamphlets they have on their desk, and they'll be like, oh, are you interested? And yeah, you know, and you can be like, yeah, I just want to read what are retards into? And then, like, spit on the ground and throw it in the air and walk away. They will never upload that. They will never upload that, ever. They will never upload that. They might have their phones out. They will not upload that, okay? You can upload that if you want to. Yeah, just throw it away. Be like, hey, this is really interesting. Can I take like 5 of these for my dorm mates? And they'll be like, oh, yeah, sure. And then walk over to the trash and fucking throw them right in there and then give them the fucking birds and walk away. Perfect. Okay? There we go. Easy. Just, yeah, don't engage. Don't fucking give them what they want. Yeah.
Numbers with the effects that we're seeing today on all these campuses, that is going to change this country for the better.
Oh, and when they start crying and ask you why, you can just be like, don't be a conservative. You guys suck. You're making life harder. Don't. Stop it. Stop it. Don't take it too serious, okay? Just be, hey, you can cut it out. If you stop, I'll stop. If you stop being conservative, just stop it. Okay? Stop. Don't be weird. Just stop.
Turning Point USA out there letting people know what truth is, and as I said earlier, empowering one another, making sure that people aren't ostracized and criticized so roundly that they want to hold back on speaking truth and being active. Turning Point USA is that group that is.
Yeah, okay, they're just shilling for their org now. All right, okay, cut it. Stop. Cut the feed. Stop. That's enough. Yeah, I didn't want to have matching outfits with Sarah Palin today, but we get what we get. Christ, that was painful. Of course it's painful. Prager now, I can't find the full PragerU video. Just, okay, cut the thing. Cut the thing. Cut it. Cut. No, I'm tired. I can barely keep my eyes open. I don't know where the Dennis Prager bit is. It was supposed to be 30 minutes of listening to Dennis Prager talk with his human mouth. Oh God. Yeah, I I'm a little queasy thinking about it. This is destructive. You guys, you're gonna get hurt, you know, watching this crap. Yeah, look, there's a 3-minute bit from Dennis Prager's segment that was uploaded, but I don't see part 2 of AmericaFest. Day 2. I don't see it. See? It says session 1 right here, but he should be after this. You know, he should be in the second segment from that day. I don't know if it's some extra special. What is with the views here? This one has 1/3 of 1,000,000 views. This one has like 500,000 views. Get triggered, Lib. Wonderful. 3-minute clip there. And then other stuff is like, this has less than 1,000. Congressman Jim Jordan joins TPUSA Live. Matt Gaetz. More like sex trafficking pedophile. I got him. Fucking got him. Got him, lads. They weren't ready for that one. No, they weren't. No, 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 no. No, no, no. All right. Hold on. Here's what we're going to do. We're super backed up on content right now. I'm just going to read donos and then dip. Not because I don't love you guys, but because there's something that I love more than you guys, and it's getting food, which I like doing off stream. And if you guys are mad about that, then what you... Oh, hold on. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, yes. It's been 2 hours. It's been nearly 3. Shut up. Also, I haven't taken a break from streaming in a while, okay? What would you guys rather, you know, you have 2 3-hour streams, or you do 1 4-hour stream and not another, okay? You guys suck. We run through these donos, of which you all blessedly provided very few, so thank you for saving me the time. Showtime666, Jason and Seas of Cheese, thank you for the $5 all. I really, really appreciate that. Oh, thank you, Showtime. I need to go out with Hake again. I honestly think that Hake is, like, below speaking to be totally honest with you. Sake with the $10. Pete Bourgeoisie is unironically vegan Obama in the speech department, a pale imitation with no substance. I won't deny that. I can't argue with that. KFro9K and Stark Contrast, thank you for the very kind $10. Really appreciate that. Saw a live of a TPUSA session of a lady lying that she used to be liberal and hand out condoms to elementary kids and teach sex positions with stuffed animals. Nice. Do you think she, like, gets off to that thought, the lie that she's telling? And K49K, I'm glad you enjoyed Metallica's 40th anniversary concert, you know. There are some Metallica songs that I quite like, though I'm not a particular fan of the band itself. I See Dead Llamas, James Garrison, and Matthew H25. Thank you for the $5 all. I really, really appreciate that. Well, Matthew H25, China only cracks down on their corporations getting so big because they don't want it to threaten state hegemony. It's not really about worker power. It's just about not threatening the state. So the reasons why aren't that great. Did you ever see the TikToker who is adamant that Rome never existed? The entire Roman Empire fabricated by white people, as she says? Dude, I fucking love Hoteps. They're so fucking funny, man. D-Spell and Snuffenson, thank you for the tier 1 subs both. Really appreciate that. Vosh Body Pillow win. I would also take a Vosh figurine in a jar for safekeeping, of course. I'll talk with my merch department. Thank you. How does Charlie Kirk get away with lying straight up in every single sentence almost? Get your audience used to it. Just sort of prep them for it, really, I think. Spooky Electric with a very kind $10. My wife was asked to join a diversity committee at our hospital because I'm trans and she's gay. Any idea how to make hospitals more welcoming for queer people? Well, the real issue that queer people have at hospitals, I think, is that practitioners are often kind of old and stodgy, and they're not very well educated on issues pertaining to, you know, gay or trans stuff. So I've never really had any issues with this because it's mostly like trans stuff, I think, where this comes up. But I will say that I remember, and this was mostly funny. This isn't a negative memory, you know. But I don't really have a general practitioner at the moment. But I did a while ago, back when I was 18, and we were doing the standard checkup. You know, he's got the clipboard out. You know, are you having sexual relations with people? Sure, yeah. You know, is it with men or women? Both. And he looks at me, the guy, and he's like this 50-year-old dude, kind of handsome. You know, kind of like a DreamWorks face deal with him. He looks at me and he's like, I don't know how to put this, but, and I figured I knew what he was saying. So I was saying, I'm topping, not bottoming. And he was like, oh, thank you for getting it. You know, and you know, people are so politically correct. I don't even know how to ask that these days, or something like that. You know, so I saved him a bit of trouble there. I think it is medically relevant. I think, you know, for some things, so whether you're getting your asshole pounded with meaty cock, but yeah, you know. Supermarket Zombies and Zog Herdium, thank you for the $5 both. Really appreciate that. The German party Die Linke took the tanky path and voted against any recognition of Taiwan. Damn, maybe I'm right to dislike them. Do you become uncucked if you yourself remove the penis or found vegetable from your significant other? Asking for a friend. I have no fucking idea what you mean, but do what makes you happy. Seas of Cheese, thanks to the 5. Yes, serious adverse effect has a very specific meaning in the pharma industry, 100%. Needless Noise and Horse Me, thank you for the tier 1 subs both. Really, really appreciate that. Have you heard the theory that they're just weekend at Bernie'sing the Queen until February 7th so she doesn't end up having a 69-year reign? That's a funny one. Well, I guess we'll see if she, you know, falls apart the day after, right? Kakao Win, thank you for the $5. I can talk about Kashama Sawant sometime on stream. Bad to the Bow, thank you for the very kind $15. Hey Vosh, can't stick around for the stream, flying home for the holidays. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas for triggered conservatives. There you go. Merry Christmas to all. Thank you, and have a good time with the family. Still alive, thanks to the 2. I have seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail, though only once, and honestly, the humor's not that much for me. Hassan the Hypocrite with the 50 Swedish kronar. Vosh thinking Rittenhouse should submit to the mob, but Ahmaud Arbery should not. Wonder why? Racist dummy. It's true. It is because I hate white people. That's the only difference between Kyle Rittenhouse's situation and Ahmaud Arbery. It was the race, and I hate white people, so that is why my opinions on those two subjects are different. Thank you. Let me see. Needless Noise, thank you for the $5. More fleshed out theory on the Queen. No. I've heard this. Yeah, that the Queen is dead, and they're keeping her, you know, on ice until the Queen has entered a new phase. We may not see her until February. We'll see. Godspeed. You know, maybe she's getting her body mechanized, like brain in a jar type stuff. Darth Nihilus, thank you for the $5. You have linked me. Wonderful old Penn Station around and before 1950 in color. I don't know if this is copyrighted. I don't really want to risk it, but AI didn't really help with that bit over there, did they? Yes, AI does have a way to go. It's still quite wacky, isn't it? Wait, somebody said it was their birthday. Oh, happy birthday, Dr. Strange. There you go. I wasn't scrolling through chat. And Sake with the very kind $10. Sag. Another Jazz Dog meme. There are two genders. I feel like all these are bangers, and I want to retweet them, but I don't want my feed to just be Jazz Dog memes because I barely tweet like on my own. So it's, you know, I need to maintain a, you know, a kind of publishing integrity, I think. What's up?
I'm just gonna leave the door open in case.
I'm just about to end, actually. Because I hate my viewers. Don't tell them that, though. I muted. I didn't actually mute. Don't say anything compromising. I was joking. The joke is that they think that I... What? Okay. Anyway, Sake with a very kind $10. Sarah Palin sounds unironically like a 16-year-old who dropped their assembly speech. The best thing that came from her was Lisa Ann's career with Nayland Palin. True! Really, the porn parodies are the best things we get from conservative female politicians. Tell me I'm sexist. Anyway, I love you very, very much. I hope you all have a wonderful time. Who are we hosting on Twitch? Now that we can host through the site. Who are we hosting on Twitch? Give me a suggestion. You know, give me a feel. Give me a give me a dealio.
Well, that's usually stream.
Give me a deal-a-rooney. Keffels? You know, let's do Keffels. Sure, we'll do Keffels. Yeah. We can be Keffin. It's been a little while. Sure. Host Twitch. Oh, it's so easy to do this.
Did you know Keffels was one who did that viral NFT tweet?
Yeah, the NFT or zoo files. You know, Keffels is a top tier shit poster. Yeah. Wait, you're back on Twitch? No, I can host people on Twitch with the website. You know, I'm not on Twitch, but I can host them via the website. See, watch. I'll do it right now. Good night, YouTube. Love you guys.